Development Review Board meeting, May 30, 2023, 7 p.m. We have a quorum. We're expecting Tom Wells to show, but we'll get going on the first applications in advance of the Masterson development. So we have Elizabeth and Nicholas. Did I say the last name? Gilbo. So actually, why don't, it's so crowded. Why don't you come on up? This is the one we tried to deal with 2 weeks ago when we didn't have a quorum. And there was an outstanding question for whether the existing house was itself outside the setback in. We've got an updated survey from Ron LaRose that shows the house just barely sweet spot. I mean, you got like whiskers there. So anyway, they're looking for a setback waiver under for the proposed addition.
There's Tom right there.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
We just got started on reviewable.
I just texted your wife to see if you're coming. The one, the first, the smaller packet, the first one I gave you is what, this is the first hearing we've got going on right now. Yeah, got it. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so Tom is here now, Peggy.
Thank you.
And so this is a setback waiver application under section 380, 381. The side yard setback is 25 feet and the proposed addition encroaches on the net and ends up 12 feet, 8 inches off of the line. The neighbors, the Johnsons, submitted a letter that said they were okay with the proposed addition. And we have a scaled plan now, and my request when this first came up was to have the setback line noted on the survey, and Ron LaRose has done that. So you can see, we can confirm that the existing house is actually a conforming structure rather than a non-conforming structure, which would have been important. Anybody have any questions for Nick?
So you've got a house has 4 sides. Why do you need to put the extension there?
My mother-in-law is moving in and we want to create a space that she can have for her own. We currently have sectioned half of the garage as it was for her 2-bedroom. We want to make that space for a living room and a kitchen for her to have her own space.
So it includes what used to be part at least of the former garage, and that's why you put it there
Yes,
instead of on the other side.
and the other side is dealing with septic and wells and other utilities.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from there? John, good? It's out on Thomas Lane. It's pretty rural. A lot of, and
There's
quite a
a,
bit of woods between you and the Johnsons.
there's a berm that divides us as well. That part of the thing that we had mentioned with our neighbors, the Johnsons, was if they desired it, we could take some of the dirt that was being dug up and build that up for a little more privacy.
And what we're calling Thomas Drive is an easement, right?
It's a private road, private drive.
right? Yeah, private drive through there.
Yep. Pretty woodsy. In between.
Works for me.
Any other questions, Brenda, Ted?
No, we have a history of a lot of folks in town here, getting Assembly way on.
Yeah, so this is the first time that under the new bylaws that we've applied, had the opportunity to consider a waiver application, and under the old bylaws, it was only in the village that we could do it. And so there were a lot of those cases because an awful lot of the lots in the village are non-conforming lots. It's hard in the first place to put in a garage or a shed or something like that, but now we're not limited to the former village anymore. All right, there are no other questions. I'll move that we approve the proposed addition with a setback waiver as depicted on the LaRose survey dated April 3, 2023.
I'll second it.
That was Tom who seconded. Peggy.
Thank you.
Any discussion by the board or against? Okay, all those in favor? John, see, 5-0, Peggy?
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Nick.
Thank you.
You're all set.
We'll get a decision out, but won't take long.
Tell your mother-in-law to get ready.
She's already in the garage.
Well, tell her, get ready to get nicer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, that's fine. So the next is the Wickham sketch plan.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the Whitcomb sketch plan review permit number 23-401, James and Christine Whitcomb, 140 North Street, parcel 060120, requesting 2-lot subdivision for unified development regs. Section 930, so this is just sketch plan review. Please come up. Hi, Christine. Come on up. Or whoever.
And you don't want to come up?
All right, so. This is this is the first inning, and it's not, as I'm sure Chris explained to you, so. Everybody there's the sketch plan there, on North Street, on the east side of the street. And so so the Roscoe lot is currently existing, it's lot 1, and then you're gonna have lot 2 is gonna be behind you.
Correct.
What's the minimum lot, what is the only way in there, Chris?
It's half acre zoning.
In what zone?
It's the village residential.
Yes,
I couldn't tell. What's Gilbo, is it RA2?
That's A5.
It's RA5? Okay, so, we've got sufficient lot sizes, so Hazel Drive, that's private, is that right? Private drive with,
That's correct.
all right, so there's gonna be an easement granted to lot 2 off of Hazel Drive, right?
Yes.
Okay, so. Is there anybody else on Hazel Drive, connected to Hazel Drive?
Well, there's
I mean,
Yeah.
is it sort of like-
Continue
it
on.
continues.
that's what I thought.
Assembly
so-
Drive and Hoopville.
Okay, so, but your property, you actually own the land on which the easement runs?
That
and
is
you-
correct.
And you've got legal right to add to it.
Yes.
You hope, because it's not just, we've got a bunch of, my question is premise of the fact that, well, we've got a lot of other people and who's got rights to say. Who else gets added? Well, we don't get into the private property aspects of it. That'll just be a condition. Any questions for Christine? Okay, so today is just about whether it's a minor subdivision or a major.
Okay.
And it's a minor because it's less than 4 lots, so that means when you've got everything ready, the board didn't have any additional questions. You'd come back, so it'd just be one hearing. Well, unless something came up. So,
I just have one little minor, very minor question, but I'm familiar with all the greenhouses there, filled with great stuff. The one greenhouse that is closest to the new line, will that require a variance because it's close?
Well, not because it's a greenhouse.
No,
Maybe
it's,
not.
it's 10 feet off. I
Is it
worked
okay?
with Kevin, that was the the
That's
setback
the rear
required.
yard.
Okay, good. I just,
Good question.
because there's no dimension there, so I can,
Yeah,
yeah, looks fine.
and on the south side, the greenhouse there, we're okay on the side lot.
Mhm.
Would you like the rest of those as well in your finals?
Yeah, it's not
Just for
what-
clarity.
Yeah, that's not a bad
Just
idea.
pull off the
Yeah.
dimension,
And so. Is your house on town water?
Yes,
Okay, so what's the plan for lot 2?
there is no plan right now.
Okay,
We know whether water runs down Hazel to the other houses down there?
It does not.
Doesn't, yeah, I didn't think so. So they presumably, if they needed to, they wanted to get down where they need to run it in the Hazel Drive,
or drill a well.
or drill a well.
Or come off Meadow Lane.
But if
as
they
well.
wanted town water, yeah, okay. It's
All right,
it's
well,
fine.
that's for,
Someone
That's
else.
the developer's problem.
yep. And it should perk because of where it is. Let's see, so. What's Whoville LLC? Is that,
That's Heffernan and Inspection Repair.
oh, is that
and
Steve's place?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steve
okay,
Peaker.
Your shop.
yeah, okay. Is 802 excavating back there too?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. All right, and what's our width of Hazel Drive? We got 50 foot, that's appropriate. Okay, so it's a minor. Any other questions for Christine?
Sounds shaking no.
Okay, so Chris will let you know, well, you can submit a revised. Get around to put draw the setback lines on there.
Okay.
And so it'll be clear for everybody. And we'll get you, Chris will get you scheduled.
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
And the second one, Kevin, I've not had a chance to scan it or anything. It's just handed the one in your hand right now.
Oh, that one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. So this is your copy.
Yes,
All right, remind me,
that's more what I'm going with.
remind me before I steal it. Yeah. All right, next item, new business, permit number 23301, Masterson Development Properties LLC, Lower Nash Road. Parcel number 009-227, requesting conditional use of a business yard. For Unified Development Regulations, Article 3, Section 350. That's how Josh would go. Josh, you coming up?
I'm gonna come up, I'm representing Josh.
Okay, come on up.
You guys have a plan?
Yes, sir.
All right, so. You're Greg?
Yep, Greg McKenney.
Okay, so Josh, are you testifying too? You probably are. All right, so
You want everyone to testify at all,
Huh?
or are you just gonna do them one else as they?
no, yeah, but we know the applicants are gonna sue. Greg and Josh, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give before this development review board shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, Greg, take us through the application. We've got the paper. Everybody has that. everybody had the, yeah, everybody's got it, John, you've got yours? All right, this is a conditional use application, for business yard. And it's off of the Lower Notch Road, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, you just walk us through the proposal?
Yeah, I'll just read the narrative here real quick. This was a 3 lot subdivision, 5 acres is set up for the commercial use. There's a greater parcel, and then there's about 10 at the front of the lot. It was 72-ish acres.
Are we RA5?
Yes,
That's what I thought. All right,
yes.
Yeah. So the applicant is seeking a conditional use approval for the contractor's yard. The yard is located on lot 2 and a smaller portion on lot 1 that is used for stockpiling soils. Primarily used for equipment storage, excavators, dump trucks, work trucks, trailers, etc.
that's lot 2.
Yep. Job material storage, pipe, fabric, concrete structures, traffic cones, etc. And then soil stockpiling, gravel, stone, riprap, fill, etc.
Okay. And there's nothing, no house up, there's nothing on lot 1 currently?
So lot 1, yep, lot 1 has an existing house, that's, I think.
Why did
just
they propose
finished.
house?
Well, when these plans were developed, it was proposed and it's since been built.
Okay,
Yep. And I believe that went through the town
Yes.
previously. Yeah.
so there's a building permit for
Yes,
that.
sir.
How about the building on lot 2 is that proposed?
The building on lot 2 is not included in this application. There's no building proposed. This is
Okay,
just
so it's
for,
here just for our information then.
yeah, again, these plans were
So there is no building on lot 2.
no building at this time proposed on lot 2. This merely for the use of the
It's
contractor's
gonna be a
yard.
short contractor lot.
Yeah.
You know, where is the building on lot 1?
As it's shown.
Right here.
Oh, okay. Who's looking over here?
Yeah.
So the road,
Big lot.
This is all
the
lot.
driveway comes up off of
This is all lot 1.
Yeah, yeah, the whole.
Notch
yeah.
Road, Lower Notch Road. Driveway to the house.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, so the driveway comes in off of Lower Notch and snakes around the existing wetlands. And is shared with the house, as you see, it splits off here. And then the remaining portions go to the contractor's yard.
So what's on lot 2 right now? Is it totally undeveloped or is it,
It is just the
Cleared?
gravel, yeah, it's cleared, it's a gravel lay down yard.
okay? And there's what's this down below here?
These, this is our permitted stormwater pond that,
Retention pond?
yeah, hasn't been built, but is,
But you have your stormwater. permit.
we have a state stormwater permit, correct?
Okay. How long is that road, the run from the Lower Notch Road to the lot 2, do you
That's a
know?
good question, I should know.
2/3 of the line.
Okay,
Well, even though lot 1 is a very large lot, because of wetlands, you really don't perceive any substantial for additional development.
Not on lot 1, no.
Okay.
No, the wetlands complex, we received a wetlands permit to impact the buffer. Where you see the pinch point between the two wetlands there.
Yeah.
I did mention portions of lot 1
requirement, right?
on the hairpin turn, will say you can see the darker hatched area.
Mhm.
On the top right of the plan. That area is just, again, kind of a storage area. It's also being used. Kind of the contractor's yard capacity.
Mhm. But proposed lot 3 could have substantial additional development, I guess.
Proposed lot 3 could, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's well suited for residential development.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm looking at, C1.
Yep.
And I'm looking down here near the hairpin.
Yep.
What's this?
That's the area I just described, sorry, These small areas are stormwater features.
Okay,
Which one are those?
Yeah,
the squiggles,
yeah, tighter line workaround, yeah,
okay, so that, and that's not yet constructed, or it is,
not yet constructed.
okay.
Yeah.
And the gray area near the hairpin depicts what?
That's an impervious area, that's the gravel surface, again, used as a laydown yard for stockpiling materials.
All right, then what, and then inside the dots,
That area there was used, the gravels were extracted to develop the road and the parking areas.
I have a question.
go ahead.
So there is a use going on now on the proposed lot 2. This is not a new
Yes.
use.
Yes,
And what use was permitted there?
it's not permitted, that's why we're here.
So when was that use established?
Josh developed the road during early onset COVID. As most businesses were at a standstill, so he took the time. For his personal use, he knew he was gonna build a house and eventually a shop and contractor's yard. And during those, I would say, early months of 2020, things were constructed.
So,
And the use commenced then after they were constructed?
Yep, yes, and we received a NOAV, notice of alleged violation from Act 250. And that started our Act 250 permitting process at that time.
And the uses continued during that time?
Yes, to some degree, yeah.
To what degree?
Excuse me, John, go ahead.
To what degree?
Yeah, machines, equipment has been stored there. It's not as active as the proposed use is going to be. Ultimately, all equipment will be mobilized in the future. I think Josh has plans to put a shop at that site, but at this point, we're just trying to permit more or less the use that's going on there now.
so can I ask
Staking
the,
and stuff.
on proposed lot 2,
Yes,
it says existing gravel contractor yard. So what we're seeing there exists. That
That
exact dimensions and so
Yep,
forth.
yep.
And any of the other improvements, the grassland swale, any of that there now, or,
the swales need to be developed as part of the stormwater features.
okay? And the infiltration area and all that, is that there now, or,
Not existing yet,
okay, so what we have right now is the gravel
exactly.
in this general area, but not the required improvements, okay?
Is lot 2 cleared of trees?
Yes, yep. All of what you see, really this entire lot was wooded.
Including the bank behind the contractor lot, is that
Yes.
clear too?
That was cleared in, I believe, the fall of 2019.
Could you help us understand? I'm
That's
sorry,
going
go ahead,
downhill.
please.
That's going downhill as we head.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
head-
Pretty dramatically downhill.
116, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a hill.
go ahead, John.
Could you help us understand what activities do happen there now or have been happening there? And
Sure.
currently happen
So-
there?
Yep, the residential activity with the house, that's one separate application. The commercial use right now, again, there's excavators stored on site, there is material stored on site, as I described. Structures for concrete or concrete structures. We've got soils that are stockpiled. Topsoil, gravel, stone. There is no sale of earthen materials. It is merely if something needs to be hauled off of one job site and stored at the contractor's yard and then brought back to it, the same or different job site. So that's how materials are stored. I think there's, just miscellaneous vehicles, trailers, Conex boxes down there for, again, storing materials and equipment.
You said concrete structures, are these structures divide up the soil area, or are they?
No, just,
Elephant feet or
no, manholes,
manholes?
septic
Okay.
tanks.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
things that are gonna go into the ground.
Yeah, elsewhere,
Yeah.
but are just, again, temporarily stored here.
In other words, you're setting up a business yard.
A business yard, yeah.
So did the stormwater permit take into account what you were gonna do on these storage sites? I don't know if it had any impact. Or was it just, based on impervious area, amount of impervious area? I think you're storing topsoil on the impervious area. Was that part of the application for stormwater? Or is it just, you've got so many square feet of impervious areas?
They look at the impervious surface area. And then, what you do on that, I guess, is
Okay,
separate.
that's what I figured, but I wasn't sure.
So where are you at with your 250 application process?
We need town approval, and then we can submit everything. They have everything else. So we're waiting on the town approval, and then I believe they can issue a permit.
When you mean, you say town approval, you mean?
Us.
Huh? Or you mean the select board saying that it's compliant and doesn't add to municipal services?
That I've already got a statement for, this board's approval.
Okay, and you have a driveway access permit onto Lower Notch? Was there already driveway there?
No, this is a new driveway. That's a good question. I don't know.
No,
I'd have to-
there was a previous, that was the access road that A. Johnson utilized to access the property originally, so there was no access permit utilized.
Yeah, and doesn't need to be one?
It didn't,
There's already a curb cut.
yeah, it was a pretty
Okay.
curb cut.
Okay, all right. Well, that was my question.
And do you have a sense of the scale of the activities on a daily basis? I mean, is that material that's stockpiled? Is that moved around or loaded or unloaded? Arriving or leaving the site each day? How many truck trips are there? That sort of thing.
Yeah, so I put in the application, let me pull it up here. It's gonna vary day to day, job to job. I put in for more or less the worst case scenario.
I'm asking about the current situation there, not the proposed one. What baseline are we working from on the idea of the heavy equipment arriving or, working the site, coming and going, truck traffic, that sort of thing? What's the baseline we have today?
I'm not sure. The guys are using it in some capacity. What we're proposing is 30 AM and PM peak hour trips.
But you're not sure now how it's being used at the moment?
Well, Josh,
But I've described how it's being used.
well, he's asking you, you described it, but John's asking you, how many trips are we getting now?
Let's say no more than that right now.
No more than 30.
A day, Josh?
Yeah.
So this application is for tripling of that traffic?
Well,
It's up to 100 trips a day. Yeah.
so,
And again, this is the worst case scenario. I don't foresee that every day, certainly no.
so let's wait, yeah. When I read this, it said, I read it differently. The project is estimated to make a maximum of 100 trips a day. I thought that was. I assume the project was sort of building this out. You're talking about regular business use of 100 trips per day?
Yeah, if you think of vehicle traffic, possibly people, we have, guys that get to the job site. I think Josh has what, 16, 18 guys right now. 3 different dump trucks that he subs in additional trucks as needed. Oftentimes things aren't being hauled to the yard, but when they are, Phil's being exported from a different site. We could generate, I think it's a reasonable assessment, 100 trips a day, probably, maybe hit that once, twice a year.
Are those one-way trips or round trips?
I was figuring a round trip, there and back being
So that,
one trip.
okay,
You have guys getting to the site in the morning, getting the equipment they need.
Oh, that's not normally the way you do it then. Whatever you say, the trips per day, that should be total trips, not figuring it as 2. Is that what you're saying? You're saying a trip is 2 trips.
You're going to and from the site.
Okay, so 200 trips a day.
Because they,
Okay, yeah.
As a max, sure, yeah.
All right,
Okay, yep.
yeah, but that's a different number.
Okay.
It's a different number than 100.
And does that include the employees, driving the private vehicles in there?
Yeah, right, so, oftentimes guys go to the job site or to the contractor's yard in the morning before going to the job site. So there's a trip in, there's a trip out, you know, if somebody forgets something.
So they're driving in there and leaving their vehicle and getting in a dump truck? And-
Not necessarily a dump truck, a work truck or a dump truck, yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
is,
a work vehicle.
a work vehicle, yeah.
so is that 30 trips mentioned round trips or? Somebody back here mentioned, is that 30 round trips or 30 one-way trips?
Well, he says 30 AM and 30,
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 round.
but he's saying 100
Okay,
trips
so-
a day, and he's saying that that's in and out, so that it really should say 200 trips a day. and
Well,
then- Then the 30s don't sound right.
at the moment, there seems to be about 60.
Yeah, I would. I don't know that we do.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear that testimony.
How would we be?
Hey, Josh, you gotta come up closer so John can,
I would,
pick one of these or pull up a chair so, because, John can't hear you.
I would highly doubt that we ever even hit that mark right now. I would say consistently we're at that, 30 in and out, which you would relate to 60.
Yeah.
And that's on a worst case scenario. I mean, probably an average, I would bet you like today we were in and out. I would say maybe you'd say 20,
How many hours are you planning to be open?
It's here.
It's there somewhere, but
Mhm.
if somebody can tell me, then. I won't have,
Well, we typically so my business is based out of Bristol, right on North Street.
yeah,
So we start there, the guys are there at 6. They're usually not leaving the yard till like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Down there, could be a little bit earlier, but
and
Maybe
at the end, what time?
4:30.
Okay, so 4, so it's 7 to 4, which is
That's
about 9 hours.
9-10 hour window.
So how's it vary with season, Josh? When-
Winter time obviously is pretty dead. There's not a lot going on with what we
Yeah,
do.
But when it's light till 9 o'clock in June,
What's that?
when it's light till almost 9 o'clock in June. what's
No, we don't work crazy hours. I mean, my guys are pretty religious. I worked like a dog when my dad died. And so I work a million hours a week. Now I'm pretty set on a 10-hour day, a 9-hour day.
Mhm.
And we don't really ever, very rarely are we ever in there. At the very worst situation, it may be a water break for Middlebury, Shelburne, Burlington, and a water trailer may be there. But it also may be parked in at my 88B where my grandparents is. If we're kind of in the realm of things going on, we're active with it. I try to keep it at the yard in Bristol, so that way we're not traveling to my property where I live to grab the trailer. So typically what we're doing now is we're parking it down there, so it empties my grandparents' yard out because we have a lot of equipment. So the yard's overflow. So really, I'm not moving equipment in and out a ton. It's all right, we may have 2 or 3 weeks that we would just park it down there. If it's in active use, we'll put it at the shop, clean it up, service it, and then it goes to the job.
Okay.
Winter hours, it would be something that would just stay down there because we've already serviced it, painted it, cleaned it up, and in those regards.
Josh, what's the it you're talking about?
What's that?
You keep saying it, we cleaned it up, what's the it?
My machines,
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was a trailer you were talking about.
no trailer or an excavator, or any
Okay,
piece of
okay.
equipment that we own.
So if you have 200 single-way trips, you're open about 9 hours, that's about 20 single-way trips an hour.
So exactly, so we wouldn't do that many. That's kind of crazy, so it'd be less than that.
So Josh, are you gonna keep using your property now is off North Street, right?
Yeah, that's
You're
where
gonna
my
keep
shop
it-
is.
you're
I
gonna
rent,
Keep that?
yeah,
gonna
it's
stay-
my grandparents' place.
I know, but you're, as part of your business, you're. gonna keep
Yeah.
that as a business
Yep,
location?
that's the plan, yep. Yeah, I'd like to try to keep it as long as I can, and it keeps my privacy out of obviously our home location now.
Is this site currently used? I mean, do vehicles come home for the night from a job to this site and then deploy the next working day from this site?
At the very, maybe a machine or two might go down there. Majority of the time, during our busy seasons, they're going from job to job. I don't really go there to go somewhere else, or I may stay on the trailer at the shop in Bristol on 88B North Street. The only thing that we do usually tend to bring down there, if we're not using daily, is our mulch trailer. Just because our hay trailer is there and we just unload the mulch into the hay trailer. Other than that, majority of the time, we're able to keep our equipment at the shop that we're using, because it doesn't really make much sense to travel to the Notch property to turn around and load it the next day.
There is some, just work truck traffic guys will get.
Yeah, for pipe
Fighting,
fittings and
yeah.
stuff.
And going forward from now, would this become a place where your trucks go, leave in the morning and go home at night, so to speak?
No, nothing's changing the way it's going now. The guys leave their personal vehicles at my office, which is located at 88B North Street. The dump trucks will always stay there for right now.
On North Street?
Yeah, yep. And it's like Greg said, it's a matter of going there, maybe grabbing a mulch trailer, maybe grabbing some fittings. We may have a structure or two that we may need to pick up, but the majority of it will be the trucks are started and stop at my shop.
So you're really going to this site on Lower Notch Road to pick up.
Yeah,
It's
it's mainly picking up
offload
materials,
materials
storage
into-
for stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all the, you're not excavating, this is not an application for any extraction.
No, correct.
And so all the materials you're stockpiling are coming from someplace
Yeah.
else.
And that's where the 100 trips a day, 200 trips is generated from, we've got a big site where there's a lot of cuts. And Josh has 10 trucks and I don't know, they do 8 turns a day, there's 80 in and out. So we went with a conservative 100 trips a day. Again, that rarely happens, but just putting it on the application because it's a possibility.
So Josh, do you bring aggregate in from other like gravel pits and such and just start stockpiling it? Or is it when you're pulling material off an existing job, you need to get it out of the way, you bring it to your place and then you use it on another job?
Yeah, so the way it is, you finish the job and you may have a half a load of stone, a half load of gravel, and you just pile it neatly at the lay down yard, and that way it's not getting wasted or dumped over a bank somewhere else.
So you're not bringing in loads from.
Just a
gravel.
stockpile there. No, I'm not doing it just for the fun.
So it's really coming off of other job sites and. you don't
Yeah,
have to waste it.
leftover material. Yeah.
Just keep in mind as you're testifying here that, because this is a conditional use.
Yeah.
We may come back and say certain conditions, and we could tell you, you can't do that. So if you think you might in the future, and I don't really have a strong feeling one way or the other. I'm just telling you that we're probably gonna tell you, you have to do exactly what you're saying you're doing into the future. So
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily think that you'd have to do that, but I know that could happen. So,
Well, I appreciate what Greg's
yeah.
saying, that he's trying to hit the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
But if, for example, they didn't have North Street, and they
Right.
all of a sudden wanted to change operations a little bit, recognize that you'd have to come back and ask to
Right,
extend this use differently.
but
Yeah,
it's,
cool.
it seems to me, Josh, and tell me if I'm just wrong. That if you're getting, if the aggregate is coming from existing job sites. I don't know that you'd ever have enough stockpiled on your site to run that many trips another day. I don't know how you'd ever get 80 truck trips in and out. I mean, you got 14-yard dump trucks, right? So if that's 40 trucks, that's a lot. Would you ever have a pile of aggregate that big?
No, he's just saying, worst case, the majority would be maybe a topsoil strip that we're piling that up. We're not gonna truck that many loads of gravel, because that'd be a complete waste of money and time.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But it's like if you're stripping a site and you need a spot to put it, then topsoil, you're obviously not gonna just take that and somewhere else. So
Yeah.
Makes sense.
organizing it at the land,
Right.
aggregate is a very slim product that we're gonna just truck a ton in there to then turn around, truck it out.
Yeah,
It's just
no.
like finishing a job and we have a very little amount left.
right.
We just try to keep
Yeah.
things neat and tight.
Well, that's how I
Yeah.
understood the application. That's why I was asking, are you planning to bring stuff in from Brother Gravel Pits and build a big pile? So
No,
that you can
no,
use it over the
absolutely
course
not.
of the year?
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
Nope.
But lots of small piles coming and going, right?
Possibly, yeah, a bunch of little piles, yeah. We try to limit that because obviously that's. Yeah,
Expensive.
not being efficient, yeah. So it's tries to keep control of that piece.
And what kind of equipment do you currently use there to move this stuff around and load and unload it?
Excavators or a loader, skid steer, maybe a mini excavator.
Are all those kept on site currently?
No, they're all on jobs.
So
They
how,
could
often-
be there at any given time.
Yeah, it's a very rare,
so no heavy equipment lives there?
no.
Well,
I don't have a piece of equipment that stays there.
right, yeah,
You don't have something old that you just keep there?
No, no,
everything is in
No.
flux.
yeah.
Do you,
And
do you
Everything's
do,
working, making money,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
do you do any crushing or anything like this?
No.
You don't have that
We do
equipment there?
We do screen topsoil.
So you do screen
So that
things,
way
do you
that's-
screen gravel there?
No. I mean, I screen my own gravel for my own applications, which would be on my road and I use that material for my house, but other than that, no.
Not for your
Roads-
commercial
roads
enterprise?
Yeah, but you gotta top it, you gotta do maintenance on it.
Keep doing it. John asked, would you screen gravel for your commercial enterprise?
Not to
No,
all
you
the job
can't.
sites, no.
You can't do that.
Just
Yeah,
reiterating the question to you.
yeah.
It's answered.
And
That was spelled out in the application.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Where the location is marked for the future shop building, 12,000 square feet.
Are you on C1, John?
I am looking at C1, yes.
Okay.
Uh, that's the building footprint. That's a large building. What would that building, what kind of shop work would be happening there?
Or like what style?
Well, I mean, you must have a vision for a
Uh,
future shop building. I'm just wondering what that is.
Truck, maintenance and equipment maintenance. Our office would be potentially on the front of it.
So you are contemplating that this could be a location and that shop would be that become your headquarters over time?
There's potential eventually down the road. Things cost too much money right now to do that, so it's.
But I think your testimony is it's not part of this.
It's not
application.
part of this application,
Right
but
now.
full disclosure,
Yeah,
there's.
no, we
you know,
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so there'd be. If there's a permit, conditional use permit granted, it would be for the existing application, which is just these use, it's the use, and if. Additional construction building is going to be put up. You need a building permit for that, but there also have to be an amendment to the.
Yeah,
conditional use
that's what I was
permit.
getting to before.
Yep.
You don't
Well, you.
tie yourself into.
And it's like 250 permit.
Right, it'd be,
Yes.
it might be a. It'd probably be a minor, but who knows?
Yeah.
Any other questions for Josh or Greg?
Yeah.
You have a operation on North Street. If people have questions, perhaps they could go there and ask about see what's happening, or is that not a possibility? I don't mean me, it's board, but general public.
I would say, a phone call ahead of time to the office number would be the approach,
John?
because we're
Oh, sorry.
never just
Never
sitting in
there.
office.
Never there.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Dagan or typical, I'm always on a job, so it's a phone call ahead of time would be the best approach. Or an email.
Go ahead, John.
Is all of your equipment that might work here either, or it does work here now or might in the future, equipped with backup beepers?
Yeah, we have to have it for all our commercial work. I mean, we do $4 million projects. And it
Right.
requires OSHA safety.
Sure.
And, yeah,
And are any of those backup beepers, hush beepers?
I think what?
They have
Hush,
the
like
new hush thing.
backup beepers as opposed to the beeping
Uh,
beepers?
No, they're all beep, 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 beep.
If we were to place a condition on you of putting hush beepers on those vehicles, would that be too much of a burden?
It's all, I mean, cat excavators don't operate that way. Cat skid steers don't have that. They have their own style of beepers that go on their equipment.
Is that a yes or a no?
I would have to research that. I mean, that's not something that Cat has their own style. And I have a majority of Cat equipment, and to my knowledge, they don't do that. They don't have that. I mean, Cat has Cat parts and their beepers all beep. They don't go shush, shush, hush.
Because there are OSHA compliant beepers that go shush, 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 though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are correct. Yes, dump trucks, the majority of dump trucks do have those now.
And yours have those?
My dump trucks do, yep.
What about,
Yeah, we don't have
What are those called, Josh?
beepers.
No,
Shush, shush, shush.
Yeah, I don't wanna.
We don't know what to
I don't
call
wanna
it.
be
I
saying
don't even
shush,
know. I
shush,
couldn't
shush,
even tell you
yeah.
what they're called. You,
Do you know, John?
I think they're called hush beepers, but I'm not sure.
All right, if I say hush beepers and whatever I write, you'll know what I mean.
If you're online, maybe we could check it, but.
Google it.
I'm trying.
Google it.
That's the reason I ask that is because you do have a lot of proximity to established residential uses here. So I guess if you want to know the direction, my questioning is how do those established residences, how are they protected from the increased activity on this site?
how are they protected?
Well, he's
Yeah.
saying that's.
That's the point of
A way
zoning.
of
That's the
protecting
more,
them
that's,
is
no,
putting
well,
hush
that's the reason for his questions. So we've got the hush beepers, so-called, on the dump trucks already. On the excavator, or loader, I should say, that
Yeah,
You
the
only have
loader
a
has a
lo-
hush beeper.
the loader does too?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
but of the equipment that would be working on this site, you've got a loader, maybe a skid steer.
yeah,
The skid steer doesn't even have a backup beeper, does it?
yeah. they do.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay,
We have all new equipment.
all right.
Yeah.
So the front end loader has a hush beeper.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, so what would be on this site that has a backup beeper?
my Cat equipment. So I
Okay.
have excavators of all sizes.
Can they be excavating on this site? They'd be
You
operating
have
on
an
this site
excavator to load a screen or load
to do the screening?
or to load a dump truck that may be sitting there.
I was thinking of front end loaders where you're using to load
No, I
the
mean,
dump trucks.
not necessarily.
Okay,
Not always, but I mean, yeah,
Sometimes.
you're right. We try to load primarily with a loader, but it's not always the case.
yep.
We definitely, majority of the time, the loaders typically down there.
How far away are your nearest neighbors? To the site?
I think I got this on the plan somewhere.
Yeah. And you were, I think you were referencing the houses, right, Greg?
Yes.
Can you reference the page and find that section?
Yeah. The nearest house is approximately 350 feet. And from the main contractor yard on lot 2, the nearest house is approximately 800 feet.
Okay.
So you were working off of page 3 there, Greg? Is that where you were?
C1, application here,
Page 1?
question 5 here, application.
And is that to
Yeah.
the actual house or is that to the property line?
It's nearest house.
From lot 1's yard area to the house. Lot 1, the yard area being in the northeast corner. 350 to the Fifield residence.
Okay,
But that's to the residence itself, not just the property line?
I believe so. That must be how I measured it.
So I would be interested in the distance to property lines.
Okay. Actually didn't bring
Oh,
it.
I got one in my office.
Okay.
We've got a scalar down, hold on. Lot 3 is vacant, right?
Lot 3 is undeveloped, yeah.
Undeveloped.
Yeah.
I don't need those numbers at this exact moment, but I think we have we'll have another hearing on this, and I hope maybe then we could have a sense of that.
So
Enough-
it's probably 160 feet to the property line from the closest segment of that northeast lay down yard.
To the Fifield house.
Yeah,
Right. Just,
150.
yeah, so just, when it comes to like noise issues and stuff like that, the standard is at the property line, not at the
Yeah.
residence. So I
Right,
think
what
it
is the
would be
standard
helpful to
in
know what the
decibels?
property line distances are.
Well, there isn't one. Good question. What-
Is there a standard in decibels that we have to meet?
No,
No, okay, thank you.
well, it's excessive, which is not a numerical standard, so. It's different in the village,
Sure.
in one of the other zones, which I forget, but when we're outside of those zones,
Thanks.
It's a tad ambiguous.
Yeah,
And are you gonna be operating just during the week or on the weekends as well?
Typically just weeks, and very rarely is there a weekend that we're maybe doing something on my house.
except in the winter.
Winter, we don't.
Well, I think we're going to do some snow. removal.
this, I did put that in the application. Snow removal is kind of
Plow
just
in the
a
road.
toss up. Yeah, I don't know. Typically, when it's snow season, guys go home with the work trucks. But not to say that there isn't some in and out traffic at strange hours when it's snowing in the middle of the night. I
Because we
think
do
that's
take care of
an
all the
exception.
schools, so if we do have a big storm, there's a chance that we could, need a spot to put snow, from the schools, because I do all of that, is county municipal schools.
Okay.
You take snow out of you stockpile snow?
In.
Not this year.
No, no, I thought I wasn't doing what I was hearing.
No, we've just basically had a spot if we needed to with the schools.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so.
Because we don't have any snow.
So you typically leave the snow at the schools, you just remove it when it gets too
If
much?
needed, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
So the technical term for beepers are white noise beepers.
okay,
White
got
noise
that, Peggy? They're called the hush, rather than writing hush, hush, hush in the minutes, you can call them white noise beepers.
Thank you.
That's a lot more professional.
So, as a neighbor, not
You're gonna
too far
get it?
from this property,
You're not yet,
okay, sorry, I'm just curious because the decibel level is up.
you're not yet. I'll open it up to the public when the board's done. Go
I-
ahead, John.
I was unclear on the answer to that last question. So do you stockpile snow currently at the location?
Josh saying no, very rare circumstances.
So occasionally? Rare.
We haven't had.
I would say infrequently, not occasionally, infrequently at best.
And if this proposal goes forward, do you anticipate any change in that frequency?
No,
Got something, Ted?
No,
No, you're,
no.
any other questions from the board?
I have a couple more if I may.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
let's
happy
get
to
them
stand
out there.
aside if somebody else wants to ask their
No.
question.
No, let's get the board questions out there before we go to the public.
All right, is there a house here now on lot 1, or is that proposed? I'm not clear if the application we're dealing with.
It was
Involves
proposed
that
when these
house.
plans were developed, John, and it is now there. It's been built.
There's a building permit for it.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you, Chris.
And what was my other question? Yeah, I was curious, at the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned that the state's been in touch with you about going forward without a permit, without an Act 250 permit, I think that was. Did I hear that
Yes.
right?
So we received a letter for commercial use on the property without an Act 250 permit, which triggered a violation, which then started our process in trying to obtain the Act 250 permit. for the use that was being performed down there.
Has the town of Bristol communicated with you in any way about proceeding with a use there before getting a permit?
Mhm. Yes,
What is the substance of those communications?
Well, he's talking to you, Chris.
Yeah,
And I'm actually
so-
talking to the applicant.
I know, but you're asking, are you asking
Well,
the zoning?
I'm happy to have an answer wherever it can come from.
I want accuracy.
so where would you like it from?
You, since
Okay.
if you took action, we need to know.
Yep, so Josh approached me when he purchased the property, wanted to move forward with this. He began
Which is roughly when?
99, 2000.
Oh, okay.
No,
No.
2019.
Oh, my God.
No.
Sorry.
It may seem that
It
long.
seems that long.
yeah,
No,
there's a virgin in there.
It was just before COVID. I'll use that as the indicator. It was just before COVID. And he had, at that point, was putting the road in. There was some concerns at that point. The state was contacted. And they stopped the project at that point, requiring an Act 250 review. At that point, the activities ceased on my end. We had the discussion that for this project, a conditional use permit would be required. There was, between myself and Greg, there was multiple emails. I met with the applicant at one point at their facility and had this same discussion. And that was just before COVID, literally just before COVID.
So it went ahead anyway without a town permit? Is that, do I have that right?
The construction that was done as far as the road and the two landing spots that are there were done prior to permitting. There was site work concept. There was no use. The discussion with Josh was before equipment can be stored there, before you can do anything of that sort, permitting would be required. The state of Vermont stepped in. We took a step back and allowed the state of Vermont, since they had a larger reach, to be able to enforce at a greater level than we could as a community. With knowing that he would require local permitting for the Act 250 permit in the end. And at that point, believe there was a decision made, and I can't speak for the applicant, to pursue Act 250 before pursuing the town of Bristol.
Well,
And
but you
since
have to
then,
build
though,
the road.
the use has become established?
No. I don't,
So what are the Act 250 folks allowing you to do right now?
Well, the understanding is more or less that we have to get a permit to continue what we're doing there, what's taking place.
Which is what?
What we've described tonight,
Just stockpiling?
Yeah,
stockpiling,
sorry.
yeah, equipment, materials, machines, there's
so you're currently stockpiling materials like
pipe,
PVC pipe
Yep.
and manholes and septic tanks and things like that. But Are
forms,
you, are
yeah,
you also stockpiling aggregate?
not significant amounts. Josh had mentioned the topsoil and then typically generic fill that, if you have to over excavate from a site,
Right, but that's happening now.
that, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
And
there's
if
been
I
daily,
understand- Go
there's
ahead,
been,
John.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that, you probably haven't been able to hear Chris very well. So the house, Josh obtained a building permit and the driveway was part of the house. So that, am I right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a by right residential building permit for the existing house on
Well,
lot one.
And there were also two Connex boxes that were permitted for, with the intent of storing product while Josh was building his home up there. And those were permitted around the same time as the house permit was issued.
What were those?
Storage containers, two of them, I
Were they
believe.
temporary?
I have not been up to, they were placed,
No,
but I
there
knew
were
there
storage
were.
units that we were just storing materials in, and that was all through.
Right.
So do you need approval from this board to complete your 250 application process?
correct.
Okay.
You have any other questions, John?
No, thank you very much.
Tom? Ed, Brenda,
That was my last question.
okay,
So are we at a point where we need to do a formal conditional use here?
no, we need to hear from. the
No, I'm
interested
just saying,
parties.
but will that take place tonight or?
Maybe.
At another time?
Depends, it could be, it could well be tonight,
We'll
so,
see what happens then.
okay, where's that sign up sheet?
It's right here.
Yeah.
So the one thing that Peggy had requested is anyone who speaks, if you could please state your name clearly as well. Because she is taking minutes remotely, so.
All right,
Government proceed.
so, okay, so,
How close do they have to be the microphone for Peggy here?
yeah.
We'll probably step.
So, everybody, anybody who wants to speak, raise their hand, let me count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-ish, 9-ish, around 9.
Probably gonna come up by the pole and they can speak from there and there.
Yeah, I think let's just go one at a time. We'll just work our way that way. And if you could come up and just like stand in this area here, if you have a question.
Or they can sit if they'd like to.
Well, I want Peggy to be able to hear.
Oh, okay.
And we'd also like to catch it on video.
Yeah, and you know, so if you have a comment, that's fine. If you have a question, we'll take the question. We may. You direct the questions to us and we'll direct them to the applicant as we fit. Who would like to go first?
Come all the way up.
Of course, I just didn't want to set out of turn.
No, there's no, we're trying to figure out what the turn is.
And Kevin,
Yeah,
Kevin, I have to switch computers, so I'm gonna go off the meeting for about 30 seconds until I can get up my other computer up and running. If you can just wait, it'll just take me a
yeah,
second.
yeah, no
All right, I'll be
problem.
right back.
Well, tell me your name.
I'm Keith Schnell,
Keith Schnell,
I'm
so
here with my
you're,
wife Maya.
and you're at Manny Waters Road.
Yep, 214 Many Waters Road, so I'm joining property owner.
Okay. So. Are you? Up there, okay. Gotcha. So when John comes back and forth.
Thank you, I'm back.
Okay, John's back. Go ahead, Keith.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll make this brief. I'm requesting that the Development Review Board reject Masterson Development Properties LLC's request for a conditional use permit for a business yard for Bristol Unified Development Regulations, Article 3, Section 350 on the following basis. With reference to Section 356, site-specific criteria for review, Item 9, and you'll forgive me if I'm restating something that everyone already knows. Regarding noise from the operation of a business yard. It states that noise should be regulated in accordance with Section 751 of these regulations, which in turn states that, quote, no noise which is excessive at the property line represents a significant increase in noise levels in the vicinity of the development and is incompatible with the reasonable use of the surrounding area shall be permitted, unquote. As we've discussed this evening, Masterson Development Properties has been operating an unpermitted business yard on the site for well over a year, providing ample demonstration of the severe noise impacts on neighboring properties. Equipment loading and operation begins as early as 6 a.m. on some days, not on every day, but it has been as early as that in the past month. It has included weekends and has continued as late as 9:30 p.m. in the past month. It does not extend till 9:30 every night, but that is the latest I have noted in the past month when I became aware of this meeting. It is loud enough to be audible indoors with doors and windows closed, and is significantly louder with doors and windows open. This disrupts sleep and the general enjoyment of the property, and presumably will have a negative impact on property values. My wife and I both work. My wife works at Porter Hospital. She's an essential worker, has to work irregular hours, and is frequently woken up by both backing alarms and the loading and unloading of heavy equipment and moving of stockpile material. If it please the board, I do have a couple of short clips of this sound, but I do not need it play those if not necessary.
Where's your house in relation to the property?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chris, could we see a bigger map and then place houses? That would be helpful.
Yeah, so it is roughly north of the area identified in
I see,
plot number 2.
I see where you are, but I was wondering where your house is in relation to the property line.
So it's, I have not measured the exact distance of my house to the property line. It's a 4.1 acre plot of which my house is roughly centered. So I would say several
Oh, I
hundred feet, but I could not tell you exactly the distance. I'm sure it's obvious from a quick look at the map,
Your best guesstimate is like 700 feet,
several hundred feet.
several hundred.
Either, is this wooded area or anything?
Yes, it's wooded up to the point where it was recently cleared. Second growth forest with birch and pine trees principally. And of course, it opens up about 100 feet from my house where the yard is cleared.
So you're saying you can hear the backups, but also you can hear the equipment,
Correct,
getting out and off the trailers and doing the loading of dump trucks.
that's correct.
What am I missing? How's he 100 feet? This is your property right here, right?
Several hundred.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's 700 to the property line from the northernmost portion of.
Yeah, okay, 700.
I
I'm sorry.
have not measured the
Okay.
distance from my back porch.
No problem. I just need to understand. I thought you said 100 and then, yeah, okay, yeah, got it.
I was referring to the configuration of the property, so from my house, approximately 100 feet back, it is clear, after which it is woods,
Got it.
so.
Anything else, Chief?
No, that concludes my statement, I'll pass it off to my neighbors.
I wouldn't mind hearing the sound. If he
Yeah.
wants to-
What do you-
Let's hear
I
it.
have a couple of 20-second, approximately 20-second long clips that, if you'll excuse me, while I cue them up.
These are from your house?
These are, yes, I have one from the woods between the properties and one from the back of my house, admittedly with windows open. These were taken in the last couple of weeks. When we became aware of this meeting, we wanted to have some sort of evidence or documentation.
Sure.
So if you will excuse me a moment. That's from the house.
Yeah, that's not working too well for us. I don't think we can
Put it on speaker.
hear. Yeah,
This is as loud as it gets, unfortunately. But you're hearing diesel engine noises and backing or backup sirens. And that's what
can I suggest you come up here with it?
of course, I'd, not, I understand this is not ideal.
No. It's just put into what we had available. Okay,
So while there's not exactly breaking dishes.
This was taken from inside the house or outside? the house?
One was standing in the back door to the house and one was in the woods. Roughly 100 feet from the house.
Okay, which one did we just hear?
That was woods, behind the house.
Okay,
So not at the property line, but some distance closer to the property line than the house itself.
okay. You have anything else for us?
No,
Okay, who wants to go? next?
thanks.
David King, 74, Many Waters Road.
Okay, let me find you. Are you to the right or to the left of Keith?
I am, depends which way.
No, I don't see you. Are you an adjoiner or you touch the
It
property?
doesn't touch.
Oh, okay.
I'm like one property in.
Okay, east, up north, up.
The Butlers are, since I'm between the rec field and.
Repeat
that. That sounded. Okay.
Here's the driveway.
Here's.
Here's the key.
That is exactly,
Yeah, well,
that's what happens and then
Yeah.
you notice.
You're off of Many Waters Road.
Off of Many
Many
Waters
Many Water Road. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so you're,
40 miles from the
okay, wait a second.
Some weird city, you can hear that.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so, give me your first name again. David
King.
Shane, so he's on Many Waters Road, so he's that's immediate neighborhood, so he's an interested person. The joiners are automatically in there, so go ahead, David, tell us what you want to tell us.
About the noise level and the decibels that are given off by these trucks, you know, they're backing up. And in general, there has to be some kind of standard of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable for the amount of noise that the beeping sounds can make. If there is none established, then they're allowed to make as much noise as they want. Clearly, what's happening right now is offensive to some of my neighbors. It's me too. I can hear it on most evenings or mornings when the work starts. But besides that, I mean, I think this whole thing,
You can hear it from inside the house.
I can hear it when the windows and doors, yeah, sure.
How far would you say your
My
house
house
is to
is-
the property line?
If I could walk a straight line, it might be a half a mile.
I'm just curious because you start saying windows and doors. Can you hear from inside the house or
Inside the house.
with the windows shut or,
Oh, in the winter, it should, I don't think so.
okay, all right. I'm just curious.
House
Yeah,
insulated.
okay. Because somewhere along the line, we're probably gonna ask to figure out what the decibel level of this noise
Of
is.
course.
So that, you know, so it's gonna have to get to that. But I'm curious to what you're hearing now.
For those trucks to be starting up at 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday, that's gonna be offensive to me and my neighbors in that surrounding area. It's a residential area. Our quality of life, as we have come to know it and have come to enjoy it, is being impacted by this business. And it's still is a mystery to me how this entire project was signed off. You could have picked anywhere to have a business or an excavation business, but he picked it right smack in the middle of a densely populated area for residential houses. There's not another gravel pit or similar construction company in that area. There just isn't. Now all of a sudden, he jumped the gun, started doing things before the permits were agreed upon, before anything was signed off on. Does not give me a good feeling that this guy wants to work with us as a neighbor and abide by the laws and permits that everybody else in this room has to abide by. You know? Why was all this signed off for him ahead of time? You know, why was he allowed?
Well,
to do all this?
apparently it wasn't.
Yeah,
That's the
all
problem.
right, so
The
now,
house.
We're here now.
okay, so who answers to that? Does this board answer to that? And if that's so,
No,
I
there's
want
no-
to know why
there's
this
no-
was permitted.
There's no pending notice violation. He's got his permit for the house. He's got a pending permit for Act 250. He does not have a permit from us yet. Well, nothing was signed off
Okay,
on.
but in the meantime, how many truck trips a day have been coming and going on those roads? Well, those are heavy trucks. How many tons does each one of those trucks weigh?
What's that have to do with it?
Everything.
Yeah, that-
Wear and tear on the road.
Hey, look. You guys are not gonna get in a debate. It's a fair question. Josh, how much does the trucks weigh?
21 ton.
21 tons.
Okay. You know, the Notch Road, how often it has to be graded. Or a normal wear and tear. Now we're gonna add all of these trucks,
In the,
hauling all this aggregate and material. Extra, you know,
in
is
the,
that a burden that my neighborhood should have to shoulder, that the town should have to shoulder? Was any of this discussed ahead of time?
There's a pending permit. This is the pending permit, so.
This reminds me an awful lot of the Lathrop gravel proposal, and the same sort of questions came up. And, you know,
I
it's
was,
no
I was-
different here.
I was there.
if I may.
Don't, I have PTSD, don't remind me.
The applicant has proposed that all heavy truck, dump truck, truck and trailer traffic go through the paved portion of Lower Notch Road. Work trucks will be, permitted to drive as they will up and down both portions of the road. In regular truck traffic.
With no engine brakes and.
Extra nice.
And the road going in, this is private road. I think you're referring to Lower Notch Road in your discussion, but this is all,
The Lower Notch
Right.
Road is public highway, it's public,
Yeah.
town highway.
That is correct.
And no, it's totally a fair question and something we'll take under consideration.
All right. I also just want to go on record as saying, I have no problem with somebody wanting to have their own business in the state of Vermont. It fits with the entrepreneurial spirit of Vermont, the hell of America. And I think it's great that you want to have your own thing, but do it with us, work with us, and our neighbor, we're your neighbors. We can help you as much as anybody else for you to be a success. But, to come in, to where our houses are, where many people, my friends and neighbors here have been here 10, 15, 20 years and longer. And all of a sudden, I mean, think of it, if you were in our shoes, suddenly, you have a business like this that makes a fair amount of noise and a fair amount of traffic. And suddenly, your quiet, nice green neighborhood is very busy with a different type of traffic. It might make you pause and, want to ask some questions. So I just hope that you can appreciate where we're coming from and try to work with us.
Yeah. Okay. That cover it?
That covers
Sure.
it. Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Sure, come on up. Give us your name, please.
I'm Maya now.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, go ahead, Maya.
I just wanted to add some specific examples to my husband's statement. Because unfortunately, I don't work 9 to 5. I work evening hours. I work overnight sometimes. I actually had to run here from work. So unfortunately, the noise is preventing me from sleeping.
You're a work reporter?
I do, yes. And it's, the noise is starting at 6:30 in the morning. I have noise machines that I use, but it doesn't touch it. It wakes me up all the time. And I mean, with the windows shut in the shower, I can hear this noise. And it's nonstop. It just, there's no break. I stopped inviting people over on Saturdays, so it happens on Saturdays. Late into the evening, I just feel like there's no peace.
What have you noticed on Saturdays?
It's
Hour wide.
probably similar. It will start as early as 6:30. And it's hard to come up with a specific example, but I would just say it's typical for the rest of the week. It's not every Saturday, but I would say it's, from my memory, most of them.
So it's basically like any other weekday.
Yeah.
And when did this start?
The noise.
Yes,
I mean,
how many months ago?
years ago, I probably at least over
Okay,
2 years ago, I want to say.
and so
More-
you're talking about your time when the road was being built in there?
Honestly, it's more in the past year, and to me, it's just, it doesn't sound like the road being built. The beeping, beep is just nonstop. And it's it feels almost like the property shakes because there's just just the sound of the heavy machinery. Just very loud.
Thank you.
I think
Any other questions for Maya?
I have a question, because I read a letter that someone wrote from Carlstrom Road, and they believe that there's an atmospheric amplification effect from Bristol Cliffs. Do you agree with that? I'm just curious because that is such a thing, but do you feel that the sound is maybe amplified because of the
absolutely.
geographic placement?
You're bouncing up at this.
Well, they pointed that out, and I'm just curious, I'm gonna
Yeah,
ask
no,
other people
yeah.
what they. Okay, thank you.
Okay, who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Come on up.
My name's Eric Fifield. I live at 2400 Lower Notch Road. I'm the closest neighbor, I would say, to this new development. Got a couple issues.
Eric, would you mind pointing to me?
Absolutely.
Just show me.
So where are we here? Let's see if we can watch. So here's the main road, so I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's
you
the
are
house,
you
that's
are
the
right
garage.
in the middle.
Yeah. First concern is noise. The current use of the existing gravel pit, or I guess not gravel pit, the construction yard has been fairly loud, mainly beeping, backing of trucks, loaders,
and slamming tailgates of dump trucks. When I purchased the house 10 years ago, my wife, then the general area was very calm, quiet, wooded atmosphere. The past 3 years or so, or maybe it hasn't been that long, but 2 years since development of the property. The excessive noise, excessive, I guess, operation in the area, lots more trucks using the road. The road use seems to have doubled or tripled from what it was a couple years ago.
Now, road use, you're talking about the driveway or lower not?
Road itself.
Okay,
That's just my perception. I don't have an actual number for that.
so you don't even really know if that's just this applicant or?
I know for majority of the increase, it's the applicant or subcontractors of the applicant because it names all of the trucks. And I find it a little concerning that currently this is, 30-day trips, 30 trips a day with the potential of up to 200. If this is only, 1/3 or 1/6 of the noise complaint now, it's going to be in a year or two. It could be quite excessive. Increase in traffic already covered. Basically just making the roadway a little less safe to walk on. I would like to point out that my wife and I have 3 daughters, 2 of which still nap, and with the windows closed, throughout the year, they'll still wake them up from naps occasionally. Which is little annoying on our end. But it's something clearly you can hear. I'm not sure how well we'd be able to hear the noise from the proposed lot further back in the property, but we absolutely hear it just over the bank from our current house. It's 160 feet to the property line, maybe 250 feet to our house.
So Eric, you
windows
think,
closed,
you think it's
all that,
160 from your house to your property line?
That was the comment
Okay.
earlier today.
Does that sound right to you?
Yes, I had measured 150 feet thereabouts
Okay.
from the near corner of the property line in the contractor's yard, and then, yeah, you centered the house in the lot somewhere. Sure.
Okay.
A little more than 200.
Okay, keep going.
Last concern would be just property value. I'm not sure how this would affect everybody with it's currently quiet, peaceful neighborhood and being turned into a construction area. Those are my main concerns. I share the same viewpoints as this gentleman. I want to see businesses thrive. I want to see everyone get along and make something that works for everybody. I just find this maybe not the best location for this particular application. That's all I'd say.
Any questions for Eric? Okay, thanks, Eric. Who would like to go next? Sure, come on up.
Okay, I'm Thomas Fox, you call me Tom. And I
Wait a
share,
second, I gotta find you. Are you on here?
oh yes, Thomas.
Can you tell us where your property is
Okay,
located?
got it. I got it. You're Lower Notch, 2271 Lower Notch. right?
Correct.
All right,
Want me to point that
so.
on the map?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
What's the name?
Thomas Fox.
Thank you.
Thomas Fox.
No, I am not an adjoining piece of property.
Just put a little X or something there.
It's going to be about there.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. You're above Many Waters Road?
Yeah. On the other side. of it.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, so you're close to Eric. You're close to the pipe fields and.
I am close to Eric.
Yeah, okay, all right, so you're in the immediate neighborhood, go ahead.
Okay, so the main concern is that it is noisy. All right, and we hear the trucks backing up as everybody else. One of the noisiest parts of the operation is when the dump truck dumps and the gate slams shut. Very noisy. The operation goes on. I can't tell you how far, but it during most of the day. I'm retired. I'm there almost all day. It has changed the character of the neighborhood. It was quiet. It's not as quiet as it was. All right, you said that the trucks are proposed to go only out toward the paved part of the notch. Right now, they don't. They go, I don't know what goes down the paved part, but I do know there are trucks that go down the dirt part.
Well, the paved part heads towards 116, right?
Paved part goes south from there, and the unpaved part goes north. And if I remember correctly, there is some unpaved part of the road between that driveway and the pavement.
As you pull out of the drive, you turn right, it's paved, you turn left, it's gravel.
Right.
Yeah, so if you turn right, you're heading towards 116.
Yeah, which will be blocked out.
Okay.
All right, now you did say something about not selling the gravel that's there, it's not, but if you're bringing fill in and you're taking fill out, you're selling it.
That has nothing to do with the property.
Josh, just let him, you're not. it's not
Right,
the big-
so I think it just seems to be a mistake.
Fine, the point,
Man,
well, no. We're, looking at various parameters and we've established that it's not being held for retail. And nor is it being extracted and on site and produced, nor is it being brought in from other sites. Stockpiled for sale. That was the point, but go ahead and make your point.
Well, I think that is my point, that
Okay.
it is being resold. It's been brought in and maybe it's stockpiled and then taken somewhere else. And if you're taking it somewhere else, you're selling it. All right?
Okay.
All right,
Hold on, Tom. Did you want to say something?
yeah, I would like to. In the application that I submitted, it says, note, there's no proposed sale of earth extracted from the site. It does not say,
That's my point.
yes, thank you, yeah. that
All
was
right,
it.
and so you're bringing this fill in and you're stockpiling it. Where are you stockpiling it? All right,
On site number
on site.
one.
So did you have to extract material from that site to make room to put this material in?
No.
No, there's a.
No, at one point when we built the site, yes, but now that the site is in existence. Where it's stockpiled, it is stored, and then when it is needed or hauled off site, it's taken from that
All right,
source.
so but you didn't remove material for sale.
No, not extracted from the site, as in the existing earth and material that was here. Placed
Okay.
thousands of years ago.
Got your point, Tom. So,
All right. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
okay,
The hours of operation, are they on the permit,
there is no, in the application?
on the application?
Yes. In the back.
Yeah.
It indicates that they would conform with the law.
It doesn't say that it would be 6 AM to.
It does.
Well,
It
PM.
does actually say,
Page 2, it goes 6 to 6, Monday through Friday, 7 AM to 5 PM on Saturdays. So they-
And so that was just another misstatement that was brought up in this meeting.
Well, this board will decide what the hours are.
Okay, I'm just.
I know, but I'm just letting you know, one of the things we look at. Is with conditions in a conditional use is what the hours of operations are. People can apply for whatever they want.
Okay,
But that's one of the things we want to hear from people. And we'll make a decision on our own of what makes sense.
very good. All right, thank you for your time.
Okay, who's after Tom? Who'd like to go next? Come on up, tell me who you are. Oh, don't fight, come on.
Matthew Davis,
All right, let me find you, Matt.
and I'm a joiner,
Point
At joiner.
2365 lower notch, correct?
2365 lower nine.
Directly across from the Fifield property.
Not quite.
You have it,
Where it's labeled on the map, I'm just letting you.
Peggy, do you have that?
Yeah,
Peggy?
I do. Yeah, yes.
Matt Davis, 2365 lower notch. Go ahead, Matt.
Point of clarification or question, can I direct questions to the DRB
Yeah, you're supposed to.
and the applicant? I mean, what's the
it gets out of hand sometimes. You ask your questions and
Okay.
if it's appropriate for the DRB, like I did with the weight of the trust,
Sure.
I'll ask Josh. If not, I won't.
I think one of the questions I have is, you know, in reading the zoning regulations, conditional uses seem to typically apply to quote unquote home businesses,
No,
not always.
no, in each zone, each district,
Mhm.
and they vary by district, there's a list of conditional uses, and in this district, business yard, AKA contractor's yard, is one of those listed.
Okay.
So they could have nothing to do with a home business, and if you look in other zones,
Okay,
not necessarily so.
okay, and then in terms of a business yard, quote unquote, the business could be of any scale.
No, it's defined, but most towns call it contractor's yard. It's
Okay.
for storing equipment and materials. It allows what they're asking for. Stockpiling materials and storing mechanized equipment for.
Okay.
I don't know why we call it business yard. That's what we do. But so it sounds broader than it actually is.
Okay, fair enough.
If you want to see the definition, I'll pull it out for you.
The subdivision component of this, has this been formally subdivided?
Yes,
Yes, through the town?
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
But
And so
before-
the way it's laid out on that map is accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Matt, since it might help folks. This is the definition of business yard, which is what the conditional use application is for, which is a possible conditional use in this zone. Business yard is a site used primarily to store and maintain construction, landscaping, or similar heavy equipment and other materials and facilities customarily required by a contractor in the building, landscaping, or construction-related trade, or similar businesses, and where the majority of the business activity takes place off-site. The business yard may include associated office space or enclosed areas for vehicle equipment, repair, or maintenance. Business yard does not include regular or ongoing sales of equipment. So that's the definition we work from.
Okay. And the term contractor applies to an individual or a corporate
Sure.
contractor? Okay. So I didn't notice here, I guess this map does include this kind of vague description, or not really description, but this area adjacent to Eric's place.
Mhm.
Do you know the distance between Eric's property line and the cut bank of that gravel pit?
It was surveyed at
Does
one
it
point.
exist today?
I do not know.
Okay.
No, but I could give you a rough
If you
guesstimate, you
Scale
know,
it and give us your best estimate, just
Sure.
by working from.
we'll call it 150 feet.
Okay. So that area is a commercial use theoretically, right?
No.
It's not.
Okay.
So at this point, the only,
If it's a contractor's yard, it's.
So just some clarity on that piece of cutout that they're talking about, it's depicted on here. This was a spot that that Josh had utilized, dug gravel out of that to construct the road and infrastructure around it. That is not a proposed stockpile location that we're talking about. Is that correct? You're talking about where the cutout is, not the flat?
well, there's the pit itself that A. Johnson had used in improving the road for however many years they owned it.
Yeah.
And then that was expanded, right, to build the laydown yard. And so I'm wondering now, what's that property, the distance between Eric's property and that?
And so he gave you an estimate of 150.
150, okay. So in terms of the commercial, the argument is there's no commercial use at that area presently?
This application indicates that this portion where he's circling will be used to stockpile materials.
It will be, but hasn't been, that's the argument?
I'm not saying it hasn't been, I'm saying
Okay.
we are proposing as part of this application
Okay,
that it will be.
So there's no pending violation. Chris has allowed the existing use to not get bigger, but he's got to have a permit, conditional use permit from us.
okay,
Apparently, Act 250 has allowed the status quo such as it is to continue. Anyway, this isn't a notice of violation proceeding, we have to decide about whether to grant a conditional use permit and next go what the appropriate conditions would be.
Okay. Well, the challenge for me, there's a few, like personally, I own and operate a short-term rental on my property that was permitted through the DRB, I think about 5 or 6 years ago. And so we have guests, 3/4 of the year at this point. So we have people coming, and from now until October, we're typically filled 5 to 6 nights a week. So it's popular, and it's, part of my livelihood. And so I definitely have concerns about the noise. The home that my wife and I built has R60 walls, triple pane glass. When the doors are all shut and the windows are all shut, we can still hear the noise from that specific area. And from
When
this,
you say the first staging area, at the hairpin turn.
this
Yeah.
area
Yes.
right here,
I just want the record to be clear for.
whether it's slamming dump trucks, excavator sounds, the sound of rocks landing in dump trucks, sorting equipment, whatever it may be. And it can be at times loud, really loud. And I would invite any of you to come experience the sound of a dump truck gate slamming 7 a.m. And I have a 4-year-old who, gets up early, so we're up early. She goes to bed early some days, if we're lucky. So that's one of my concerns, is how this might affect my personal livelihood. I also own a maple sugaring operation. I don't really see how this would directly impact that, but part of my short-term rental is essentially an agritourism type thing. We're giving people tours, we're trying to promote our business, both our businesses. So that's one of my concerns. There is, once again, I think other people have spoke to this, but I will, once again, it looks like by the zoning regs that the development should not by its nature, scale, or conduct cause an undue adverse change to the character of the area, as the area would exist if fully developed in accordance with the town plan. I would argue that this is certainly by scale, pretty different than anything else. I think other people have pointed out there's really no other business that operates like this on Lower Notch Road. You maybe could argue that the gravel pit on the corner of Notch and 116. We hear crushing equipment, sorting equipment from there. We hear 116. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of already noise being generated. The point from the resident on Carlstrom Road, our property backs up to the cliff. And noise does really seem to be amplified. And we've noticed this from landslides, from, road noise, whatever noises are going on in the area. Prior to Josh purchasing the property, the gravel pit got used as a kind of a quasi shooting range for anyone that felt like going back there and shooting, and that was a problem. ATV use, Josh, I know you've wrestled with that. That was really, sound seemed to be amplified from that property. The 40-acre clearing around the business yard probably doesn't help with that, with mitigating sound. So that's certainly a concern.
You're talking about the clearing on lot 2.
Well, I guess lot 1 and lot 2, right? Isn't that all in a clearing with a 40-acre field?
Well, that's what I didn't know what you were talking about when you said the 40 acres. I thought you misspoke, but why don't you clarify?
I don't know, it's 40 or 38, or, I mean, it's.
I would, I don't know offhand, but I think it's closer to 20.
What are we talking, Greg? Are we talking on 1 and 2?
Yes.
I mean, that squiggly line there is the
tree
edge
line.
of the tree line,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
correct.
okay. So that's what you're referring to. Okay, keep going. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, so the other thing in the zoning regs that I picked out, proposed development shall not exhaust or exceed the capacity of the road to accept increased traffic. You know, I guess the question really I guess the DRB is gonna have to wrestle with that, like, how does this really affect traffic on lower notch and notch roads? I mean, I've had some pretty close calls personally with all manners of traffic. I would argue that right now, the town of Bristol is not doing a great job managing the use of lower notch road, whether it's speeding, passing.
What is the speed limit
It's presently 35.
from Josh's driveway down and in front of your place too?
Yeah, and I think it changes to 25 somewhere when you get close to the village.
Yeah, it's outside the police district, so it's state police. It's
You have to
nobody's-
call the state police.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be,
I know,
Oh, we've called the state police. I mean, it's,
They're right on it.
yeah.
so that's why I'm,
Especially on a
you
weekend,
know,
they're right
I think
there.
given there's the reality of the situation, and then there's sure, you can call the state police.
But between the driveway and 116, it's 35.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
The paved portion is 35.
35.
Okay.
I enjoy riding my bike, walking on Lower Notch Road. You know, when my daughter was a baby, pushing her on the stroller. In the stroller, and there were a few occasions where whether it was, I don't know specifically Masterson, but other contractors using the road, Lathrops, when they're logging in the notch, they're hauling, you know, multiple truckloads a day of wood down Lower Notch Road. I would like to think in a neighborhood like this, I would be able to go walk along Lower Notch Road and feel comfortable doing so and not feel like I might have to at any minute jump into the ditch. Because there's a lot of blind spots, blind driveways, blind rises, and I've kind of developed a technique where I walk along one side and then to the other to make sure I'm not in oncoming traffic. Excuse me, I'm taking a sip of water. So that's another concern I have, it's just related to pedestrian use. I see a lot of people walking, you know, Eric and his family like to ride their bikes on the road. So certainly a concern. I think as a taxpayer, not just an adjoiner, I have a concern about how this might burden the town in terms of road maintenance. Managing conflicts with traffic potentially down the road. This is not the only commercial entity operating on Lower Notch and Notch Road. So I assume semi trucks are gonna be part of this traffic.
So, hold on. Yes or no?
I mean, they have been.
I mean, that's a hauls your low boy or is it the dump trucks?
Gun trucks.
Okay,
They're, yeah, you know.
And there's low
tractors.
boys for the bigger equipment,
yeah. But what hauls?
but they all run, the dump trucks do go the dirt road now, but the low boys.
No, but what's, when you say semis, you mean tractor trailers?
Yeah.
Yeah, very rarely is there semi lane.
What would a tractor trailer be doing?
Hauling an excavator. Moving an excavator, we have big machines.
Oh, okay, so it's a big low.
It's a low boy.
But it's a semi tractor.
Yep.
Got it.
And so there are already existing uses with semi trailers going up and down Notch Road, Lower Notch Road, Lathrops being one. Does this become a competing issue? Like how many tractor trailers can safely pass on Notch Road?
I think you're all.
You can. Raise
I
this
mean,
concern.
yeah, two trucks can go by there now, can't they? It's a town road. I think that's outside of the realm of our application, the question you're proposing.
Well, we'll decide what's outside or
Okay.
not. If, there's an issue about, whether two large vehicles can safely pass, it's something we can get from the road commissioner if we need to or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, Greg's right in the sense that most class 3 roads. Well, this is probably class 2 road. No, it's got class 3. That two truck, trucks can pass each other, but, roads differ, so I don't know, specifically, I've been down lower now, but I've never looked at it with that in mind, but that's something that can be different. And we've looked at those kinds of things in the past with other applications.
Okay. So, yeah, in addition, and I know I don't mean to be, keep going back to this, but just for clarification.
Sure.
The 100 to 200 trips per day is total. Between
Yes.
like semis, dump trucks,
Work trucks,
employees,
employees,
vehicles,
exactly.
Vehicle trips.
Yeah.
vehicle trips, got it, associated with
The business.
the business.
Yeah. And again, we're going for worst case here. I mean, we may not even hit that in the 5-year window, but
Understood.
Yeah, I guess that relates to the other question. I assume your hope is to grow.
Nope.
No, just.
Already been there. Yeah,
Yeah.
downsized,
So the way you see this is like
what I am right now.
what you are, and that's where it stands.
Yep, I don't plan on growing at all. I've already been to 30, 35 employees and
Mhm.
never going back that rate.
Fair enough. As an owner of 2 businesses, I don't ever want to have a single employee, so.
So, yeah, no.
I get what you're,
Maintaining what we got.
okay, well, appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have. I guess one just question. One of the things prior to Josh's purchase of the property, this land pretty much had just public use. A. Johnson's policy is kind of like don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. So people got used to walking, biking, skiing out there. I'm curious if you would be at all open to any kind of,
That
trail.
one might be outside our jurisdiction.
Well, this is a question for Josh, just
Yeah.
personally.
You can always talk to him, but.
Yeah, okay.
That's something we're gonna
But that's
decide.
not something we're gonna.
Fair enough. I don't have anything else.
Matt, do you have any, or sorry, John, do you have any questions for Matt?
I have just one quick question. I somehow missed, I think at the beginning you mentioned what zone this is in, and I didn't get that from my notes, and I don't see it, not finding it on the application. Could somebody clarify what zone we're talking about here?
RA5.
Okay, thank you.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Matt from the board? Okay, thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Who would like to come next, speak next? What's your name?
Beth Eckers.
Gotta find you.
2120 Lower Notch Road.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay.
Do you have that, Peggy?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Beth.
Josh and his family forever. So I don't have anything against Josh in particular. He knows,
There you go.
but I do have something against the proposal. I would like to ask that that this board can look at the Act 250 and this permit because they're not exactly the same. There are some differences in what is requested. I would also like to ask that, let's see, I have already been to the town about traffic. Chris knows about this. The town board told me, well, they know that he's out of compliance with the weight on that road.
That I didn't know of.
They do. And they are, but they said,
You're talking about the select board?
select board, I've been to the select board. So
Okay, just make your point.
there are some weight requirements on that class road. I went to the town at the time. They didn't have, this company did not have the proper permits for that. So they got them, I assume. And I don't know how often they have to be gotten, but I don't know if Goliath and the other companies that were involved with this had to do that as well. Goliath is not a Bristol town company. I don't know how that how that goes.
Um,
Also,
I can just answer that real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, that was an initial active fit, the application, we have since amended that. And they are no longer a business that operates from this location.
thank you.
That was the life you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went to the town road commissioner, and the town road commissioner said, can't help you, I don't have a scale. So I said, "Oh, who does? Of course, you have this, but you can't reinforce it, and you can't prove that it doesn't happen. Well, the state police do, so I called the state police. The state police said, we can't do it unless the town calls us in to do that, because it's out of our jurisdiction. So I went to the select board, because I am the only one that lives maybe 20 feet from the lower Notch Road, and my house is built into.
Show me where you are on the map, can you?
And my house is built into the side of the hill. So every time they go by, my house shakes.
Are you an adjoining landowner or?
No. I'm right across from the federal land. I am,
Yeah, but here's the driveway.
okay,
116 down here.
so I'm between Many Waters Road and I'm between Many Waters
Are
Road.
you between the driveway and Five Fields?
No, she's north of that.
I'm north of
All
that.
right, so you're.
I'm right,
Closer to traffic.
where I'm only, well, anyhow, I'm right on the road. So the
But
road,
we're in relation to Many Waters.
right in front of it.
Okay, so your immediate neighborhood, go ahead.
So I went to the select board. And the select board said, well, would it help if we wrote Josh a letter, or Masterson's a letter, and asked them to be more considerate of the neighbors? Because I had asked that you move that they use the traffic, that they take their traffic, because I'm dirt. That they take their traffic on the paved road. Well, as unfortunately, as Tom said, that's not always happening, and I don't know if you can guarantee it either, Josh, unless you patrol
Oh, I
it
can
all the time.
enforce like dump trucks that definitely go that way. I don't.
But not just the dump trucks, I'm
Yeah,
talking
I
about the
those
trailers that are bringing in the
pickups.
excavators and.
No,
and
but
all
that's
that.
all involved with a dump truck.
But I
We
don't
don't do
even
that
know,
with a pickup.
so anyhow, so the town knows, and they said, well, let's write them a letter. Did they ever write you a letter?
I'm not Josh. I wouldn't have
Josh, did
received
you
it.
ever get the letter? Yeah, so, and I kind of knew that might happen anyhow, but, another thing is that, people were talking about the noise. I too hear the back end of the trucks go down, and they're quite loud. And I didn't know what it was. I thought you were dropping a piece of large equipment onto the ground, but I've been told no. So I'd like the board
Do you hear the beepers, or do you hear the?
No, I
the
don't hear
banging?
the beepers.
You hear the banging from the tailgates or
I
something?
don't hear the beepers. But I'd like the board to keep in mind that in the Bristol zoning regulations, it says that outdoor equipment should not be operated before 7 a.m. And also in the noise ordinance 751, it says that it shall not increase the average, all equipment used within or associated structure shall not increase the average decibel, which we don't know what that is. You'd have to please take it when it's not in operation and when it is in operation. And when the equipment is operating at that property line, that can't be greater than 5 decibels.
Okay, but I gotta correct you politely.
Okay, at the property line,
Wait,
greater than 5
wait,
decibels.
that-
Mhm.
The provisions you're reading don't apply to this property,
Why is that?
because look at the start, look at within primarily residential districts within the HBR, which is high density residential.
Oh, you're right.
and-
I
and-
stand
and
corrected.
VR.
I
So
do stand
None of
corrected.
that, they're all
You are
nice
right.
things, but
But-
they don't apply here.
But, okay, so none of these apply here. I didn't look up the ordinances for A5.
Well, it just is reasonable, and that's where it gets harder.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, so I wish we had a numerical standard, well, we don't, or, some towns have a certain number of decibels at the property line, which is nice, it's objectively
right,
verifiable.
right. I see. So in this
We
one,
don't-
that isn't. I
We don't
understand.
have that, it says
But-
excessive, which
but-
is damn unhelpful for
I
us.
would hope, though, that the board would listen when they're in operation and when they're not in operation and see the difference. Also, I have a copy of the land use for the National Resources Board, and it says a permit will not be issued until the district commission receives and reviews the following information. Number one, AAFM review letter regarding the applicant's proposed mitigation for impacts to primary agricultural soils.
We're not gonna,
No, but you're saying that if you're telling them that if they pass this, then they can apply for,
they're independent permits.
They
have to-
are.
They have to have them both, but they're different criteria. We don't look at the Act 250 criteria.
Okay.
We have
So,
our own, which would be a conditional use permit.
so
We don't look
Can-
at Act 250 at all.
can you give a permit without them
We can each.
reaching Act
They
250
need both permits,
permits?
but.
You can give a permit
we can give-
before they
we
get the
We
Act
can give ours
250.
and they can give theirs. And
I
it
don't
doesn't
think
really
they
matter.
give theirs without ours.
Yes,
The other,
correct.
but we can give ours without theirs.
But, well,
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is they need them both. They need them both in order to operate.
Right, but if you build on them before you actually have the permits, then there actually are some repercussions that can happen within the regulations of our town board. Is that correct?
There's no pending violation.
Okay,
So what's happened has happened.
but that was a violation. Why is that not a,
Because
because Chris overrode that?
no, it's Chris's decision what gets violated and what doesn't.
Okay,
And here we are with a pending permit application. That's it. We
okay,
all understand. Did this get started off on the right foot? No, but here we are,
okay,
and
okay,
And
so that part
this
is
is,
when,
you know what, it happens more than it ought to, but it happens.
yes, no, we do know that, yeah. Okay,
But the town has historically been,
okay. Well,
if not happy, it's been acceptable to the town to get somebody to initiate the process and get into the process and apply for and hopefully obtain a permit, however it comes out, but
okay. Well,
rather than crackheads.
My major concern is the noise and the traffic
Then you can hear.
and the
you can
weight
hear from
of
your
the,
house.
and the violation to the weight of the weight permits or the weight requirements.
Understood.
So,
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
wait, any questions, John, any questions for Beth? No, anybody on the board have quick, so you can hear from your house, Beth, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Inside with the windows open, windows closed? You hear the bang, you
Yes.
hear the banging.
just the beginning. That's all I hear.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, who have we heard from?
I'm
Tell us who
Helen
you're-
Young,
Helen Young.
27 Many Waters Road.
Are you in adjoining land?
I am not.
So you're on Manny Waters, so
Manny
you're,
Waters.
so you're now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm over there.
you're over there, okay, so you're interested, you're in the immediate neighborhoods,
I
go
am.
ahead, go ahead, Helen.
And I feel like we're almost to the point where we're beating a dead horse, is that the
Well-
phrase, flogging? Because you're hearing the same thing over and over, but I think it's
That happens.
important for you to hear over and over that this is affecting a lot of people in this area. That one of the requirements when determining the appropriateness of a proposed conditional use is you have to consider the character of the area. And you're just hearing over and over, and this is only a fraction of the people who live in that area, that this is negatively affecting the character of the area. Traffic, noise, we haven't mentioned the dust and the dirt. I don't understand when Josh says he doesn't plan to expand, then why the proposal is asking for 200 truckloads per day, when currently it's 30. Why isn't the proposal asking for 30? Because that's where he exists.
Because it was tailored to allow for worst case scenario, is the testimony.
I know. Okay, well, take that into consideration. three and a half times the current level might happen. And residents are finding the current level unacceptable.
We hear it.
Good, and I don't mind standing here and saying
No,
it
we
one
hear
more
it.
time, but
We
I
got it.
also want to say something else one more time. This area is zoned for single residence, single family residence. And across the road on Lower Notch Road, the last time I was in this august establishment speaking to the zoning commission was to voice my objection to
Planning commission?
the zoning commission.
We're,
We used to be the zoning board, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you know, I'm just trying to figure out who you were talking to.
that a builder was bringing to the board, I'll just say the board,
Okay,
a project that he had completed that was a multiple family dwelling. And it was clearly in violation of the regulations, and the zoning board, the board said, oh, it's already built, don't worry about it. I hate to see this happen over and over and over again. The message it sends is build it first, ask permission later, because we'll never put your finger under the press to make this happen. So I'm just afraid you've already set a precedent and you continue down that line,
Well,
and it's very disappointing.
Helen, I've been on this board for 15 years and that's never happened during my tenure.
No, and I've been on the board since we were in the village, and
You were on the board when this happened. I
I
remember
don't
that.
remember, but.
Well,
it was a single
multi-family
use.
dwelling
you know, if
is a conditional use.
Yeah, but it had already been built when the builder came to you
I
and
think
said,
that's irrelevant.
is it, no,
application.
it's not irrelevant, because you've already built this.
but
And
that's,
now you're saying, can we build it?
no,
And we're saying, no, we don't want you to build it, but now it's built, and so you guys are going to say, it's already built.
no.
So we have to deal with it.
We've never said that. In,
Okay.
in 15 years.
Okay.
I don't remember that either.
Okay,
And,
well,
and
look up the
somebody
Great
did,
West
wait,
case.
if somebody did something built without it, we would tell them to take it down.
You didn't.
But
We have evidence
I don't care.
that this
I'm
happened.
telling you, in 15 years, that hasn't happened. So
And I'm
whether-
telling you it has, so.
not with the.
Let's
DRB.
agree to disagree.
It doesn't matter. That's not how it
I'm not
operates.
worried about allowing this precedent. Let's say this is the precedent. This is the first time you might do this. Build first, ask permission later. I think it's a bad precedent. So I'm completed with my
Yeah,
comments.
no, we want people to apply first.
Yeah, I know you do.
There-
And apparently, Chris said you need to apply for a conditional use permit, and they didn't. And they built the property.
I don't know about the timing, but
Well, according to Chris, it was in 2019 that he told them they need a conditional use permit. They did not apply for it.
well, I don't know when the application, we understand your point.
Okay, good.
I don't know when the application itself was actually filed, but we're not gonna, it's
Okay,
9 o'clock, we're not gonna look for that now, but I understand your point, go ahead.
good. I'm done.
And if it was long enough ago, I'm old, I may have forgotten.
Thank you, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting if there's any questions.
Okay, any, John, questions for Helen?
No question.
Any questions from the board? What can you hear from your house, Helen?
The dropping of the cement ball on the earth that I didn't know until tonight was the banging of the
Tailgate?
tailgates. That's what I can hear, with the doors closed, with the windows closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Who else?
Good, I got it, keep it quick.
Sure, who are you?
I'm Olivia Glasgow.
Matt Bryan.
Hold on, I gotta find your gotcha. So you're 1835 Lower Notch?
We live at 1835, we also have, if you're on Blueberry Farm across the road at 1908 Lower Notch Road.
Across the road from where?
1835, it's 1908 Lower Notch is on the other side of the road.
It's pretty much right on the other side of.
So where
Many
you,
Waters.
okay, all right. All right, go ahead. I don't know.
We own
How
a,
close are you to Manning Waters Road?
Not close on the road, but close through the forest. So we own a blueberry farm at 1908 Lower Notch Road. Which acts as a pick your own farm in the summers. It's been around for many years, we're new owners. It affects the solitude and overall peace at the farm. It affects our business because we're afraid our customers aren't going to enjoy their experience, which is the entire point of our business. We feel it changes the nature of the neighborhood. It's a highly residential area. We can hear the road noise from both sides, both our property and from the farm. I noticed it today while I was hiking out back, kind of completely ruined my hike, to be honest.
So how far are you folks from, can you estimate for me from the driveway, the Masterson driveway? Cause I can't see many waters on the map.
Trying.
Looks like a. Get an estimation. I mean, we don't even particularly that close, and this is only our second year there, and last year didn't seem that bad, and it seems like over the last couple of months, it's really significantly taken an uptick, especially in the volume.
Hold on, let's find it here.
I'm 300 feet
Is your,
north of my house.
is your place, is the blueberry place where the Lunners used to?
Yes.
Yeah, from
So
Linda.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
Would you- Brenda, say that? I couldn't hear you.
I asked if
can measure the
their
distance on the
blueberry
place.
place was the Lunners blueberry place.
Okay,
It is, yeah.
all right, so I'll have to reserve on whether your immediate neighborhood or not, but.
Yeah.
But that's,
Yeah.
So I mean,
But go
even though
ahead,
we
make your
are, we're not even an immediate neighbor. You know, we obviously we're outside a lot and I mean, it's alarmingly loud even from where we are down the road. I guess I just figured out tonight that. Yeah, the most significant noise, I guess, is the slamming of the dump trucks, which is pretty alarming. We can also hear the beeping from our property. We can't hear it from the inside of our house across the road, but it's definitely a significant amount of noise from our farm. You know, obviously, like our business revolves around creating a quiet, like peaceful environment for, you know, our neighbors and the rest of the community to enjoy. It's just, you know, it's tough for us. Like we're small business owners, we understand, you know, there has to be a space for businesses and industry to expand. It's just tough to swallow, you know, it just feels kind of out of place where we are. You know, it affects us not only our business, but, you know, it's our livelihood, plus, you know, our quality of life being a resident there also. You know, we moved there a couple of years ago, because we fell in love with Lower Notch Road, how peaceful and quiet it was, and you know, this honestly just like completely changes the dynamic, you know, of the environment we're living in.
I was not writing fast. Did you say you hear the beepers or you don't hear the beepers?
I hear the
We can hear
beepers.
the beepers from the farm and from across the road, 1835. Definitely the most alarming noise is the slamming of the dump trucks. You know, we don't farm to make a lot of money to begin with, you know, we do this to provide a service, you know, to our neighbors in the community. And, you know, it just so definitely presents a challenge for us.
I'm also just concerned about the increased traffic and safety of the road.
Yeah, just like considering the numbers, you know, 200 trips a day, you know, it's already significant difference that it's made. Just to think about that activity increasing is hard to wrap your mind around even.
So if the trucks went west instead of up your way, the big trucks, not the pickup trucks, so that would take care of some of that.
It would help, but I think the majority of the noise we're concerned about is on site. It's mostly what we're hearing, what it sounds like.
You hear the equipment running or just is it the banging of the truck?
Banging and beeping.
We do hear beeping and equipment running,
Yeah, okay.
but I'd say the most alarming noise is definitely
The banging.
slamming. Banging.
John, are you guys done?
Yes.
Any questions, John? For these
No,
folks?
not for these folks. Thank you.
Okay, hang on, just hang up. Any questions from the board for these folks?
No.
Okay. All right,
Thanks.
who's left? Come on up.
I'll be quick.
I'm Abby Middle, I'm on 1579 Lower Notch Road,
Gotcha.
so I'm if you go right, so your trucks, the big trucks don't hit me, because they'll be going north, but, or they head
So-
south, they'll be going
So
north.
where, I want to
So
find that
I'm past the Blueberry Farm, I'm more towards town,
more,
so I'm not an adjacent
That way.
neighbor.
you're farther away.
Further away.
Yeah,
All
each
right.
further away, I'm like a half mile from
Okay, so you're
the
not,
Blueberry Farm.
you're not an immediate neighbor, but that's okay.
I'm
go
not.
ahead.
So. I don't hear the beeping, it does not get all the way down to me. My big plea would be just the trucks coming this way.
I already lost you, Abby. Give me your last name again.
Mendenhall, I'm right here, or Abigail.
There you are.
Yeah.
Gotcha, sorry.
So I also have little ones. And you're getting the brunt of all the people that drive really fast on Lower Notch Road. So I know it's not all you, but my big plea would be have your drivers go slow, kids run into the road. I get so nervous. That even with the increased traffic, with them coming that way, they're up busy, everybody's running a million miles an hour just to go slow.
Yeah.
So that's my big thing.
Any questions for Abby?
Yeah, so,
Hold on,
Yeah.
Abby, come back.
Yeah,
yeah. Can you hear the banging of
no,
the gates?
no,
Okay, so you can't hear the noise from the site.
no, I cannot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, who's left? Anyone who hasn't spoken and wants to speak?
Under the road.
I'm just gonna add to this.
Come on
I
up.
don't need to take anybody's time, it's just.
No, just come on up. Well, yeah, but we need to
What's your
get
name?
the law.
Record, just.
Carrie Myers. I live on.
Gotcha.
What's the name?
Carrie Myers,
Carrie Myers.
Thank you.
I live on South Mountain Drive,
Okay, so where is that in relation to the project?
south, north of the Blueberry Farm.
Okay,
In between, the Blueberry Farm and me.
Yeah,
all right, so you're not in the immediate neighborhood, but go ahead.
well, when you hear it, it's immediate enough,
Well, it's
when there's an
a,
impact. I don't hear the beeping, I hear the gates slamming shut. Truck traffic, dust, and condition of the road has definitely deteriorated in the past couple of years with the not only on top of that, we have how many other houses been built on Lower Notch Road in the past year by Greg West, so, that's on top of it. I'm not adding that to you whatsoever, that's another issue, but that road is beat up and it's taking, takes a toll on our vehicles too. So that's a concern of mine, that, wear and tear on our own vehicles. That you have to call to get somebody to come out to regrade the road. And it really isn't lasting that long anymore. I've lived here 10 years now. And the time between the gradings, the road deteriorates a heck of a lot quicker than it used to. So if we have some help there, whatever the case may be, it's just. I probably wouldn't have bought a house there. If I knew there was gonna be a gravel and excavating business there. When I bought a house 10 years ago, and there's probably other people in my same shoes that would probably take that into account and said. And I pose that to all of you, how would you like to have one of these in your backyard?
any questions for Carrie? All right. Anybody who hasn't spoken who wishes to speak? All right. 20 after 9. Josh, is there anything that we hear a lot of, we heard the consistent comments about the tailgate sign. Is there anything that can be done to bumpers or anything like that? I'm not aware of what's out there. Do you, is there a technical solution to this?
No, I mean, the biggest thing with the tailgates is drivers got to be a lot more considerate on how they do it. Even on some of our projects, it's an enforcement.
Well, but you're not, if you're.
But it's not, it's out of really out of my control. It's something. that
You know, I
we
just
try-
wondered if there was something, I mean, it's a common issue with dump trucks, because
Yeah, I wish.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I was, and I know, sometimes if it's, you got sticky material and you got to get it
Yeah.
out, and you pop the engine, pop it
Yeah,
forward to
you-
make it slam to bring stuff loose, but you're dealing more with loose stuff, so that's not the problem, right? But is there, you know, there's always technical solutions that come along. Are you aware of anything that's been created to address this truck gate slam
There isn't
problem?
really, I mean, the gates are the gates, the way we
No, it
operate, and it's on the driver. And hoping
Yeah,
the drivers.
no,
can see
no,
it.
no, like bumpers or anything.
No,
I
the
mean,
gates are so heavy.
Yeah, I know, but, okay, so you're not aware of anything.
This is my suggestion. My feeling is you guys should go back and really think hard on this, because this is gonna be with this much feeling that this doesn't fit well in the neighborhood. And this is a heavy lift, and I think you need to come up with a way.
Well, what does the board think ought to happen next? We can do a site visit. We've done one, haven't done one in a while. We could schedule a site visit and
Well, I was
hear it
gonna
ourselves.
make a point to do that, but we've had a lot of testimony here from the neighborhood, and it's gonna be, I can't vote for this. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's just too much inconsistent with that neighborhood and the standard we have to meet. So you're gonna have to find a way to meet us halfway on this one here.
Well,
It'll be, you know, whether it's, what do they call them, silent beepers and
Well,
and
we've got the
trucks.
white noise beeper.
I think you're gonna have, I would go back and work on that.
Well,
Because,
let's brainstorm while we're here.
yeah,
And the other thing is that this is a conditional use, which means this is a place where this particular use is allowed.
Possibly.
And there's,
only if it doesn't negatively impact.
well, there's some criteria and we need to go down those, but, we shouldn't say immediately, there's no way that it could be because we've got to, you know, talk.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that the primary, but we can set some conditions. We could, for example, limit the number of trucks and all those kinds of things. But what I'm saying is when you hear this many neighbors, this much concern, the basic requirement that it not negatively impact on the surrounding neighborhood, that I'm gonna have a real problem with that. I mean,
Undue adverse impact
yeah, and that's undue or that's impact.
is the standard we are looking for.
And I can tell you that this is an undue adverse impact, so I think they need to work to try to find
Well,
ways to make it less adverse.
and John came up with, or Chris came up with the term of the white noise, beepers, so, we didn't hear it. Those seem to work for that. Now, there's other vehicles that don't have those. Is there, and this is just thinking out loud.
And
Is it-
also.
wait, is there a way to, seems that we heard, two consistent, you heard it all. We got primarily the banging gates and the beepers are what people really hear a lot. The traffic, if it's shunted more towards 116, it's easier to deal with, that's easier to deal with conditions, but is there, and you don't have to decide now, but you've heard well, what the concerns are, and where conditional use is all about fit. And so I don't know enough, none of us know enough about your business to figure out how you might be able to address those problems. But those are the two.
I've worked with pretty serious sound issues in the past, and there are some solutions that are not inexpensive, but this is a pretty dire situation if you don't get this approved.
But
I just wanted to finish this if I could. I just wanted to say that some things like, for example, and it might be difficult because of this echo effect that they're talking about, but a sound attenuation wall around your area, in other words, they use them along highways and that kind of thing. I don't know, you'd have to bring in a sound expert to actually study it and say, could this work here? Would that substantially diminish it? But I think this is crying out for, unfortunately, an expensive solution, but something, because this is pretty bad from what we're hearing.
Yeah, I think we can look into, just the standards for what decibel level is acceptable at property lines.
Well, we don't have that in our guidelines.
Well, right, so we're gonna come up with something that is, I guess, a
I think,
standard,
I think you
generic
could,
standard.
and,
yeah.
and argue that to us, and we can certainly consider that.
Sure, and just, the
But
consider everyone
anecdotally,
else.
we're hearing from a lot of people, and we will mark them down.
Sure.
Pretty far away, that are,
Yep.
really
Yep.
telling us, that this is loud
Sure,
from within the house and so forth. And
so perhaps a site visit is warranted.
Yeah.
Perhaps with equipment on, so we
Go
can all
ahead,
get a
Brenda.
sense.
I was just, because I'm considering there's complaints on traffic on a road I don't think that your trucks travel on,
Well, they,
or usually.
yeah, I mean, they definitely have traveled the dirt road,
Oh, okay.
like they've said.
But don't need to, at least.
Yeah, that can completely be avoided.
Well,
But
we're
they
we're
also-
drawing a distinction, Brenda, between like the pickup trucks and the equipment trucks.
Yeah, but they've also mentioned that people are logging up in there and so forth, and is there some way of determining what noise is due to this operation and what noise is due? Because if we have a wall echoing things up, any large truck coming through there might sound like it's coming from the same place. And,
Jake breaks are pretty loud.
yeah, but it might not be just his, it might be anybody, and you probably,
Well,
if it's going to echo all over the place, then.
John, what are your thoughts about moving the way forward with the application review? What's your feeling?
I have a few. One, I would really like some real numbers on the current traffic to the site. So we can get a better sense of what the increase proposed, how that compares. That's one thing. During the meeting, I just looked back to the zoning regs, and this business yard use in this zone was only added when the current regs were adopted at town meeting in 2021, I believe it was. They were drafted in 2020 and approved in 2021. The prior version of regs we would not be having this hearing if those were enforced, because this use is not even a conditional use there, business yard. I think that's worth keeping in mind for the board. I'm concerned because while we were talking, I also looked at the transmittal letter from the Planning Commission to the Select Board, noting what changes were made from 2017 to 2020 regs. And this change was not noted in that, and therefore it may be that this conditional use, as it shows in the current regulations, may not actually be enforced. If it wasn't properly warned and put to public vote, then the conditional use addition to this zone may not be enforced now.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that one. Go ahead. There's a short time limit about under which you can make procedural challenges such as that to the enactment of a bylaw. We're well past it.
Yes.
Anyway, anything else?
So noise is definitely a big thing that I've heard from the neighbors as a concern. And so those are my concerns. I would like some more time to hear this information and look forward to an additional hearing on this.
Ted, what are your thoughts?
I think that these issues that have been brought forward, by the community, surrounding this project, need to be addressed in some substantial way. So people can be able to live on their properties and not be negatively impacted by these extreme sounds. These very loud, not obnoxious sounds need to be addressed.
So none of us are feeling ready to, and I'm certainly not ready to vote on it tonight. I'd want additional information. What's the board's thought about next step? We continue to a date certain with direction to Josh to try to fill in some of these areas of concern. And we can also do a site visit or not.
I would like to do so, but I really would like to spend some of your money and suggest that you hire a sound expert. Do the decibel test.
Yeah, you can do that on an iPhone. We'll start there.
Okay, well, I think you need some help here coming up with a solution.
Yeah, certainly. We're gonna look into all that, but you know, that,
Okay, fair enough. That's just
Yep.
my opinion.
yep. What, I mean, you're the board, if you, I guess, request a certain standard, then, you know, we'll try and proceed
Well,
accordingly.
know-
But
Go ahead, John.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, John. Go ahead.
I,
No, go ahead.
I think as a board, I would like the board to, hold this application to a higher standard. I will do so myself. I can't speak for all the other board members or the board as a whole, but since this operation went on unpermitted at first, I think that, for my part, that I want to hold this application to a pretty strict standard and compliance. I don't want to set any kind of precedent about, do it now and permit it later. That would certainly be problematic town-wide. So, traffic analysis, noise analysis would be great. And I would definitely endorse Tom's idea of a site visit. Thanks.
Well, what would be, I guess it depends in part about what you can figure out, Josh, about if there's a way to deal with not necessarily from a decibel perspective. Is there, to the extent that you can avoid the beepers, and maybe you can, maybe you can't totally, but the white noise stuff isn't a problem. We didn't hear any of that. So sometimes the best solution is not worrying about what the decibel is at the property line, it's getting rid of the noise. If you can't, you can't. And if you can't, then we're dealing with, okay, we've got two major noise issues. It's the beepers. And either, it sounds like the slamming tailgates on the trucks and maybe for some people, at least the closer people, it was the dumping, into the truck bed and such like that. So, I think it might make sense if you can do some more homework and see if you can eliminate those things or propose something that takes it, either makes less occasion for the particular noises or gets rid of it. Then the site visit may not need to happen, or it might happen, but I think it's better to know if you want to sharpen your pencil and see whatever changes you might be able to make. And then we can decide whether we'll have a site visit, which back in the Lathrop gravel pit days, we did have a site visit down on Main Street and down on Hewitt Road and with the trucks, and we dealt with all of that. So we can do it. But if you can find a technical solution for at least some of it, it's the more you can minimize the problem, the less need we have for a site visit. So
Sure.
I think we could, go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, I think that we have to be looking at the hours of operation as well.
Sure. It's all on the table.
If
So,
we can get some solutions here, I still think I alluded to it early on. We're probably gonna have some things to say about the total number of trucks and the hours and other things. I think that, it's beholden on us to do those kinds of things. But I think the key thing right now is to see whether you can come up with some solutions on this.
Yeah, certainly. We'll look
Yeah.
into it and.
Yeah.
like you said,
And I totally get that that's hard and it could be expensive or whatever. it
now,
is.
so one thing, and I'm not sure what case it was. I might have been, I can't remember which one it was, but sometimes, like, for instance, by analogy, an hours of operation, say, if it's some emergency situation, we always have something allowed for that. Same token, it's not, you don't need to, I appreciate what Greg did, is tell us what the worst case scenario, you might be surprised. But maybe that worst case scenario is so limited to certain events, and it's only a time or two a year. and what you're, and so it's easier to deal with that as a condition. If those circumstances arise, then give some permit that says 200 trips, when most of the time you're gonna need 60 or
Yeah,
50.
perhaps we can amend things to say the estimated average traffic flow. And there's gonna be days higher and days.
Well, what I'm saying is think about whatever thought went behind what that worst case scenario might be. Think about what that is and tell us, and if there's a way for us to understand. All right, Irene happens, okay, but maybe that's such a rare event that, all right, and that's something that gets handled in every now and again, but the day to day, we need a better handle on.
So an example, when we were in Heinsberg, there was the Burnett scrapyard, they were trying to deal with that, and it was hours of operation. And very similar to what you're saying is, they finally agreed that they would stop at 6 p.m. or whatever it was. But the town gave them 6 times a year where they could exceed that because they might have a truck that's running late coming in from Canada with material. So you have what the baseline is with a small buffer. So that's one way you might have to look at it.
Yeah,
like that.
but I'd rather.
You can be creative with that, I think.
No, I know, but we also can't expect that to be enforced, self-enforced spirit. No one will ever know whether you've used up your 6, we just won't. So it's better if you, from my view, if you would target it to what might occur where those special needs are.
Yeah.
And we can think about building that in, but have a better handle on what's the day to day.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Well, yeah, I can get a better idea on what the actual traffic is. For everyone to think that, what they've heard over the last year, since last fall to now, a lot of traffic was building a house. So that involved a lot of noises, multiple Saturdays. I race every weekend, so no one works when I'm racing. So that eliminates Saturdays right off the bat. To start, the Saturdays were when we were working and races didn't start. So that's a lot of noise that's gonna have happened because we're finishing up.
Just the fact that you're gonna take the trucks down the paved side, the major trucks down, that'll make a difference. And some of what people are concerned about, it isn't actually you. The select board's gotta take a little responsibility for the overall road and, there are other people on the road too.
Yeah.
So there are bigger issues here.
So,
I wanted to ask you, if you have a determined skilled driver, can they avoid that tailgate smashing, making a sound you can hear from a mile away?
Yeah, I can do it. It's just a matter of the rest of the drivers.
Yeah.
Well,
And that is.
there are ways to enforce things with guys.
Yeah.
You're the boss. You tell them, you do that a couple times, I'm gonna have to fire you. Because this is a real problem for me.
Yeah, it's,
That usually gets it through.
it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
It's doable. There's a lot of companies that, when they do slam gates, that they get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
There's many out there, many that have actually subcontract to me. So it's enforcing, I know it's a.
Yeah, no, I
hard
like
to
it.
do that,
Yeah.
but I definitely try to keep in mind the whole engine brake thing and trying to slow guys down. I mean, they could be going the speed limit on the dirt road, but the speed limit with a dump truck looks significantly faster than a vehicle.
Sure.
And it's
Especially when it
startling
hasn't
when you
rained
meet
and the
it,
dust
it's
is kicking
startling
up.
when you meet a car.
Yeah.
Or someone out walking, so I
You're okay with
can
the trucks
definitely
heading-
appreciate
You're okay with the trucks.
understand that.
You can run the business sufficiently with the trucks heading on the paved portion down to 116, so.
Yeah.
We can clip some of these problems, clip them down, so. Procedurally, folks, we need to adjourn to a date certain,
How long do you think you want?
and let me finish. If it doesn't, we're gonna pick a date. And if you need more time, we can always reconvene and bump it out, but we actually have to pick a date certain now, otherwise the clock starts on us, and we're not ready. Okay, so I want you to give yourself enough time to get a better handle on the traffic in the way we've discussed. See what, if anything, can be done to reduce or eliminate the beepers, see what can be done, if anything, to eliminate technologically the tailgate slamming. And sort of put that stuff together, and then And then I'd like to see you figure out more clearly for us, sort of get away from the worst case scenario approach, and tell us what your regular operations from your perspective need to be. And you've got a seasonal business, so it's gonna, when you get going in March, maybe February, so I mean, that's, it's really like March to November, March to December kind of business.
First of the year.
Yeah, so give us a better focus on what that looks like, and if there's some unusual, but we can expect that they'll be around from time to time in the course of the year, days where you're gonna have to do more. Tell us what those circumstances are and how often you think it's gonna be, and then we can make a decision about whether it's okay or not. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
All right, so let's imagine that you come to some agreement. What is the enforcement and penalty for him violating that agreement?
Chris is the enforcement officer.
All right, so Chris, how do you enforce, what's the penalty for violating the agreement?
The penalty, I'd have to look at our zoning regs, I don't have them in front of me, but it's, every time it occurs, it's a individual violation. There's a monetary dollar around it. And if it occurs long enough, we can request to have the permitting, revoked.
There's basically a fine function that their bylaws have. As
You don't know what that fine.
I believe it's a certain number of times, whatever the cost of the permitting was. So I'd have to look that number up for you. I don't have it off the top of my
So
head.
it'd be up to you.
No, it's
To patrol this and to assess it. Who would be the,
if you all saw, if anyone saw, the way it works now, if somebody sees a violation and they call down, I then go out and evaluate what's going on. And if I see or feel that the violation has occurred, i.e., there's 3 of you that say, yep, one of Josh's trucks came screaming down the road, then we can use that as, I would feel comfortable issuing a violation. If it's, hey, we heard a tailgate slamming somewhere's in the notch, that's a little harder to do. So
if somebody comes to you,
absolutely, and then there is a method where I have to go out and inspect the violation.
So then will the public be informed what the regulations are?
Yeah,
Do we have to come to this meeting to know, or will it be in the minutes, or how?
there's
You mean permit? When you say the regulations, what do you mean?
the conditions.
Conditions.
Yeah, there'll be a written decision at some point, one way or the other. If there's a permit with condition, if there's a conditional use permit, there'll be conditions in it.
Okay,
You'll see that everybody who's an interested person will get a notice of it.
okay.
Yeah, it's physically mailed out.
So everybody who put their name on that bid tonight, we got.
No, everybody who's an interested person. And I've ruled who was interested persons and who was not. Most people were.
But there is no definition in our bylaws for interested person.
No, it's statutory.
It refers you, but it'd be helpful if, somewhere we put it.
That's why I
down.
ruled on everybody who spoke, whether they were an interested person or not.
Yeah,
And almost everybody was. A few, the blueberry farmers and the folks up that way were not. Everybody else was. The joiners.
so you're at a certain distance, we don't matter.
but Chris,
You matter, you're just not
matter.
legally an interested person under Vermont law.
What-
There's an
what-
actual definition.
What's the,
it refers, at one point, it refers you, it says interested person, see the definition, and there's no.
well, okay,
definition.
but the way it works, Carrie, is that, in order
So
to
we
be,
wondering what it-
Brenda, let me finish with Carrie.
Sure.
If it's, who can appeal? From this board, the next level is the environmental court, which is a de novo appeal, which means the environmental court sits as if it's the DRB. Not everybody who cares, one way or the other, is entitled to appeal by statute, not our regs. So the statutory term is called interested person. And adjoiners are always meet that standard. The applicant is always an interested person. Neighbors, it's a little bit slippery. It's the immediate neighborhood. That's gonna vary by circumstance.
I'd like to know what the circumstances.
Is this not a public permit? I mean, everyone will have the ability
Because I'm
to.
here, I'm not gonna,
Oh,
chill.
sorry, I just,
Yeah, it is a public permit, but these folks don't understand how it works,
okay.
nor do you. So, I drew a line. About what's the immediate neighborhood, people half mile away are not gonna be immediate neighborhood. Most of the people here are immediate neighborhood. So, and you have to have actually participated, so everybody here participated. A lot of times, most of, we don't see all the adjoiners, we don't see all the adjoiners tonight. So you have to be in the immediate neighborhood and you have to be, have participated in the proceedings here. And then there's another way where there's it's a petition function. Where any 10 people in the town can get together and say, we're concerned. But I'll tell you, that one's going away, it looks like, with S100. So it may not be long for this world. The legislature, that's when we're sitting, I think it's at the governor's now, I'm not sure of that, but there's a whole bunch of changes coming to increase affordable housing and one of the provisions I was pretty shocked to see was to knock out that petition avenue that's always existed. So when we had the Laker travel pit, there were people who had signed a petition. There were enough of them, and they were interested persons. So it's still the law now, but by July 1, it might not be. Anyway, that's how it works.
And
Yeah, John?
Yeah.
Yeah,
When the board votes, does it have to be, you have to, have a majority, or do you have?
yeah, well, it's we have to have at least 4. Takes 4 votes. Because we're a 7-person board, so it's always a majority of the board, it's not a majority of the quorum. So, and we're actually down a few, we're down 2 people. So we're dealing with a board of 5, although our board is 7, hopefully we get some vacancies filled, but it's always 4. Whether there's 4 people here or 5, or whether we have a full board. I wish we had a full board, we don't. Anybody else? So everybody gets notice.
Kevin, did you set a date?
No,
Okay.
anyway, once there's a final decision, one way or the other, the appeal clock is 30 days from the date of that decision. Everybody, interested person will get notice. And there aren't a lot of hard and fast deadlines in zoning or in Vermont law. That's one of them.
That's one of them.
That's one of them, hard and fast. So I was away on vacation. I didn't get my mail. None of that works. 30 days, hard and fast. All right, we got to pick a date.
Actually, I have a question on what you were just saying. The people you said were not official interested parties, if they ask to have the decision sent to them, can they do that?
You do that. You just don't have the right to appeal.
I just,
Well, I mean, it could always be challenged.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not there yet. The next, we don't have a decision yet. We're not done having hearings yet. So when works for you guys, give yourself enough room. I know you want to get it done, but don't cut it, we prefer not to have to convene and extend. If you pick a date and you're not ready, we still have to convene and then bump it to another date certain. So
Okay.
give yourself the room.
But we're not gonna have a sound analysis done in 4 weeks, 8 weeks. Could be a stretch, but we'll start with 8, I guess. Unless you want.
Can you look out, Chris? And it's much better to have a date where you're able to get together whatever you're gonna be able to get together than to to do it in dribs and drabs.
You guys are the second. You guys, second and fourth Tuesday, so,
Second and fourth,
okay, I have to make.
except May, as you know.
Yes.
Which you'll never forget.
That's why I asked again.
I don't know how many Tuesdays there are on the calendar.
So, you're probably looking at the
25th.
25th of
I
July.
can't do the 11th, yeah.
Yeah, that's what, I'm just looking at it realistically, 8 weeks out, it's about 20, around the 25th.
That works for me.
July.
Yes.
John, work for you, latter part of July, good?
And so, sound analysis, aside, if the noise doesn't get addressed, there's gonna be a problem with the permit. The noise needs to be addressed.
Right, well, that's why I'm saying eliminate what you can, reduce where you can.
Yep.
And then we'll take it from there. Your point's well taken, everybody's heard it. You couldn't sit here for 3 hours and miss that point.
Everybody who came, I encourage you to, this is good that you're involved in the process. It's good that you make your concerns known. When government doesn't always work, this is the way it does.
Yeah. Okay,
So if you
so,
come back again on that date, come back.
now, the 25th, July 25th, yeah, July 25th is the next hearing date, and like I said, if these fellas decide that they need some more time, we reconvene and then bump to another date certain. We always have to pick a date certain to keep the appeal, the decision clock from starting to run. It's only when we're done taking evidence that the decision clock starts to run on the board, or we have 45 days to render a decision. Yeah.
I'm not trying to volunteer anyone, but like, if you were interested in collaborating with any neighbors to check in on how that is doing, are people open to a knock on the door, a phone call? I don't know, like, is there a process here where we facilitate building the bridge to help you get to where you want to go and help us get to where we want to be?
If you want.
Is that, it's not part of this process?
My bedtime. Certainly happen outside it's not part of the board's process, but there's nothing to stop the applicant and the neighbors from talking about proposed solution, if we're not.
Is that like, you have the list of who's your tonight, who spoke, so you knew like.
Well, it'll be
who
in
could not.
The board members wouldn't normally go out.
No, but that
But
it
the
could, right?
applicant, oh, yeah.
So Peggy, there she is, she's a silhouette.
Don't tell me she's getting darker.
Either that or she's in.
I'm going back.
She might be, that's right, she's in the witness protection program. She was formerly known as Peggy, so she's gonna produce draft minutes. She's real quick, so they'll be up shortly. They're not official in that, because we have to review them and vote as a board, whether there's any changes, so. A lot of times the draft minutes hang around for a while, but the draft minutes will be out, and that will have, and she takes very good detailed minutes, so all that will be there.
Well, in the best of all worlds, a bunch of us will get back here on the 25th. And people will say that
Hey, Chris.
the sounds have been mitigated. And that they're okay with what's happening. I mean, that's what we would all be seeking here. I believe.
The minutes get posted on the website. As soon as.
Yeah.
Puts them up.
I'm usually about a week out, I'm not gonna lie, I only work part-time, so.
Oh, hey, clock's running, right? You're the time.
It's 5 days, it's like, I stressed about it.
Okay.
So, before it breaks up, did anyone make a motion to officially move this meeting?
Well, we're gonna reconvene. I hope to reconvene on July 25.
Second.
That's second.
vote.
Yeah. That's second. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Brenda? Yes. Aye. 5-0, Peggy.
I don't.
Hey, folks, Can I just ask you, they still have a little more meeting to finish up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Thank you.
I'm just curious, as.
You have to.
There's everywhere.
Don't worry about it. I got it. I just needed you to feel good.
Yeah, no, sorry, so we have Peggy, I don't know if you can hear, but we have a vote to reconvene. The meeting's adjourned until July 25.
Yep, got it.
Okay, anything else?
Did you guys want to just postpone your minutes until the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and then
10 o'clock.
the next thing is adjourn. I can't do it.
I'd move to adjourn.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all.